Masudi mpeleke General Hospital huyu hebu.
Unipeleke General Hospital kwani mimi ni mgonjwa?
Basi mpatikana kwa ajali kubwa sana.
Mambo ya pesa yatoka wapi? Jana ulizungumzia kuhusu nini wewe? Si uliambia mzee wangu kuhusu maamri?
Masudi hebu mwambie nipatie pesa zangu.
Mtoto wangu basi.
Pole.
This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
Remember, it was my idea to begin with, and there is no group. It is just me and you.
You have to skip to my room if you want me to cooperate, okay? There is no man in this world who likes to be around like a chicken.
Yeah, what you and do? Why don't you put your feelings in check? What is your problem? What do you want?
And what about the video Akido was showing you?
What video? Yes, what video? Hey, teacher, don't mind her. She forgot to take her medication in the morning.
Well, that better be the truth. Bunch of idiots.
Did you just call us idiots?
I'm sorry, that came out wrong now.
You see, this thing happened. Slippery car. Maybe they don't have money. Maybe we should just stick with the original plan.
Classmates, every Saturday on KBC.
Good morning. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. This is Wednesday, the 6th of January, 2021. My name is Samuel Njoroge Asanteni Sana Kokuja. Thank you so much for coming to the only way to kickstart your morning. Good morning, Kenya. I do not do this alone. I've got a cartel of three ladies who join me to do this each and every morning. Hi, ladies. How are you doing?
Cartel. What's up?
Hey,
look at the blood.
Just look at us.
You guy, my guy.
Look at us.
Someone said it was a memo, but it just was a nice coincidence.
And before we go any further, happy birthday, Sam.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Sam. Happy birthday. Oh, Sam is flashing.
How old are you now?
Close up on the guy. He's blushing.
Thank you so much.
Can you tell us how old you're turning?
How old are you now? So how old are you?
How old are you now?
Old enough.
And matured enough.
But people don't grow
Of legal
old.
age?
My kind of people don't grow old. They age like fine wine. They get better.
You get better
as the years progress.
More life, more blessings.
Oh, cheers.
Sasa nyamaza kwanza Sam. More life, more blessings, wealth, health, and all the good things that life has to offer.
Amen.
Including love.
And love.
Oh, wow.
And everything nice.
Amen. Thank
Sweet
you.
and everything nice.
Niko na insist hapo kwa love.
Thank you so much.
Amesikia.
Alama za dukuduku.
You know, throughout, hakuna mtu ashai invent how to react when you're either thrown a birthday surprise or people sing to you happy birthday. Sijui you blush, uiname, uangalie, smile. So I'm just taking it
We've
easy.
taken your blush. It's okay. It's all in stride.
And I love you right back. Thank you so much for that. It means a lot.
Happy birthday.
Thank you so much.
Aya basi. aside from Sam's birthday today.
I felt like that was a moment of silence.
Yes,
Before we start.
acknowledge this great day. But then you should hear the way Sam Chocha, you know, as other people were created, I like to think, others were made. I was created. Those are the words of Sam.
But that kind of confidence is good.
Oh boys, Church are mad.
Aye, manze.
But nonetheless, even though in a faku,
Someone said that to survive in this world, you need that.
You have to be your own champion, your own
cheerleader,
your own gas, man. So Sam, Manze, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Kama kawaida, it is Wednesday. We're going to be having different segments coming up in not too long. My name is Jane Momboy, and today I'm going to be having a conversation with a representative from the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, just trying to understand the whole issue to do with women and good governance, trying to understand what role women have to play when it comes to the fight against corruption, and also just making sure that good governance is our portion as Kenyans. So that will be coming up in not too long. Welcome once again to Good Morning Kenya.
Okay.
Yes, I'm done. I will calm down now.
Chill.
Come here, breathe.
Let me sip my coffee.
Okay.
Ray,
I'm
take
Regina
it.
Manyara. We're going to be looking at what has made news in the last 24 hours, including what is happening in the political scene, matters of BBI, Jubilee here and there, and what it means for central Kenya, rather what we like to term as Mount Kenya region, in light of that particular letter and the reaction of Jubilee allies. Further on, we're going to be looking at chaos. You know, on the second day of resumption of e-learning, the state continues to say that it has enough money, to just keep schools running. But is that the situation on ground? These are some of the stories that have been making headlines in the last 24 hours. And in our interactive segment this Wednesday, we're going to be talking about the safety of our children in school. I'm going to be having an interview with a pediatrician to just tell us, in the event of an emergency, as a parent, a guardian, and if an administrator of a learning institution, what should you do? That is going to be coming up in not too long, so do keep it right here. Those questions that you've had over the issues of COVID and how you can ensure that your son or your daughter or your ward, someone who is in your care, how you can ensure that they're safe during this time, well, this is the place to be. 9 to 10, that's the conversation we're going to be having.
Well, they say we haven't erected bridges for a very long time. So today we go back to that. And this is simply because we're just doing, just to check how the 11 footbridges have been coming along. This is along Outer Ring Road, given the fact that late last year, I think the 7th or 8th of it was already installed, and this is around Pioneer Estate. So this morning we tried to check how that has been affecting traffic, whether it has been reducing the traffic flow along that specific route, because one of the major reasons to why these bridges are normally installed is also to reduce on the traffic flow. So this morning we checked the progress, see how it has been coming along, as well as the traffic flow along that specific route. Many thanks for making time. My name is Doreen Arange. So I'll definitely be showing you the images of that in a bit. But before we get to do that, let's just check the traffic flow on that specific route. And we begin from, this is Feather Road. As you just leave, actually as you branch off from Outer Ring Road, I keep telling you all the time that this specific route branches off two major roads as well as a slip road. So clearly it's one of those instrumental roads, and that is why it was also expanded to make it easy for pedestrians as well as, for vehicles, both public and private. And as of now, at least it's green all through. It's the early morning hours. So again, also what you're seeing, at least as of now, is basically what you'd expect to see, because there's barely any kind of heavy traffic just on some specific parts along this route. And this is before you actually get to that place, which is Feather Estate around Feather Road. Away from that, coming all the way to the CBD via Outer Ring Road, at least green all through. So again, when you see this green, it just means that there's no traffic at all, moving at a swift pace. And the beauty of this is that this is actually on both lanes. As you leave Mombasa Road via Outer Ring Road, going all the way to Thika Super Highway, and also branching off to those roads that I'll just mention to you in a while. And also, as you leave that main road, which I've just mentioned, again, coming all the way through Outer Ring Road as you head over to Mombasa. So again, on this particular road, this is actually what it means when I'm saying on both lanes, and actually it's green all through. So again, it means there's no traffic just on specific parts, and even at that, it's still a manageable kind of traffic, and that's why we're seeing that orange color there. As you branch off to Feather Road, heading all the way to Nyayo Estate, actually coming from Nyayo Estate to the city center on that specific lane, looks like traffic has begun to slightly build up. But then again, also on this route, this is Feather Road. It's also one of those roads that have been earmarked for reconstruction, because the state at which this road actually looks like it's not good at all. And this is actually why we're seeing the kind of traffic that we're spotting, because the poor state of this road would normally lead to this kind of heavy traffic. And if you can imagine, as of now, on both lanes, traffic has begun to build up. So probably when you get around 8 or 9, it will be a different case altogether. But at least as of now, if you're coming from Nyayo Estate, from Feather all the way to the city center via Outer Ring Road, or even to Mombasa Road, or even to Thika Superhighway via the same route, then again, this is just the best time for you to do that, because also this traffic just goes till when you branch off to Outer Ring. Past that, all through, green all through, no traffic at all, moving at a really fast pace. So around these areas, these were the fast places, you know, after the road was complete, where they had the areas had been earmarked for these bridges to be installed. But just as I mentioned, I'll be showing you the images of the new footbridge there. This is actually next to Pioneer Estate, and try to see how that has been coming along, and also how that has been affecting or impacting traffic on this specific route. But at least as of now, this is how it is looking like in terms of traffic. Our focus this morning will specifically be on Outer Ring Road.
Right, if you are just joining us, this is Good Morning Kenya. We are glad you are with us, and you are in time for the first segment in the headlines, getting to have a quick look at what the papers have for us this morning. But remember, the hashtag is Good Morning Kenya on Twitter. At KBC Channel 1 is our official station handle, and our individual handles ever remain at Sam W. Njoroge, at Raymond Nyara, at Doreen Arange, and at Jane Wamboi. I have a copy of the Daily Nation. A quick look at how it looks like this morning. There you go, a very clear image right there. The big read says Ruto takes battle to political bigwigs in the race for State House. Deputy President William Ruto has launched a multi-pronged campaign to capture the stronghold of his rivals, and pictured also therein we have ANC Party leader Musalia Mudavadi, Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka, Ford Kenya leader Moses Wetangula. We also have Mombasa Governor Hassan Ali Joho and Baringo Senator, as well as Kanu leader Gideon Moi. As it goes on to say that the DP has challenged these particular leaders in their perceived home toughs. We'll be getting to the details of that in not too long. The other main story here on the front page, out-of-school children's parents face arrest. This is what the Ministry of Education, in conjunction with Devolution and Interior, are working on with county governments, and have gone ahead to say that parents who are staying at home with their children, including girls who have given birth, they risk arrest for keeping these children at home, and they are supposed to take these learners back to school by close of week this week. Details of that in not too long, but also looking at some of the other stories that have been given prominence on the front page of the Daily Nation. Shame. This is the story that was also on the front page on a Monday about the pastor who defiled his daughters. That story has been recaptured here. More details have come up. Details coming up in not too long, as well as the health crisis, as health workers issue a fresh strike notice, given that governors have disowned a pay deal by the government. Those are the stories that are on the front page of the Daily Nation this morning. Rain.
Now, that particular story about the pastor has also found itself on the front page of the Standard this morning, with a different header there. But the same story is that the pastor from Hell's shocked admission. Apparently, he was cornered while he was on the run and dressed in a Somali garb in Kirinyaga, and the father admitted to having impregnated his school-going minors. He will be sentenced tomorrow. Our reporters who are based within the corridors of justice, and that is the courts, will be keenly focusing on what turns this particular court case takes in regard to, we've seen over the last 10 months or so, when children have been home, increased number of teenage pregnancies, and worse still, the perpetrator in this particular case is their biological father having done or rather gotten into that heinous act with his very own children. Now, also the story of matters of politics. That's a big read on the Standard this morning. And if I can just give you a quick glimpse as to how the front page of the Standard looks like this morning. There, Deputy President William Ruto there and the President Uhuru Kenyatta there, seemingly squaring it off inside the push to reclaim central Kenya, as well as chaos during the second day of the reopening or the resumption of in-learning, where the state now has barred media houses from schools. We wonder why. That and so much will be coming up as we give details of what has been happening in the last 24 hours in the headlines.
Doreen?
I thought it was you.
No, take it away.
No. Okay, fine. I'll take it away.
Yes.
Okay. So on the front page of the PD still matters to do with schools dominating the paper. But before I get to that, let's just look at the political scene. And this in regards to the Machakos by-election, which is slated for 18th March, where now there are two factions. That is the Ruto camp, and this is the splitting on the Machakos by-election with the main, that's the main header on the front page of the PD. And one faction headed by former Senator Mudhama now supports the ex-Deputy Governor Kiala, while the other backs former legislator Kaindi. Now, this actually is the by-election that will be slated for that day, which is 18th March, following the death of the former senator, that is Boniface Kabaka. But of course, we'll be getting details of this in just a short while. Coming back to matters schools, which I mentioned also has dominated actually the entire page this morning, and this, the massive back-to-school crackdown, whereby most parents in different parts of the country, were not able to take their children back to school because of transport issues. Some even had to use border. Some even had to walk for long distances, just as it has been captured here, because of taking their children back to school, as they mentioned that the transport was not there. Also on the other side, or on the flip side rather, still on the same issue to do with the schools, this in regards to chiefs now to search for those for parents who have not taken their children back to school. Remember, there's a lot of concern from parents in regards to this back to school issue, whereby some are not really confident in regards to how their children will be treated or taken care of in school. And also there was just a comment I was reading yesterday, whereby someone mentioned that when their child went to school, they went actually with one particular mask. So when they came back home, they had a different mask. And so the mom was asking this child, why did you have a different mask? And the child mentioned, the mask that you sent me to school with was not beautiful enough, so I took my friend's mask. And the mom was just in gaze. So you'd wonder, that is just one particular story, and how many other children will do that. So this entire issue of going back to school has taken the entire PD, if I can mention, because the story has been fleshed out from page 4 all through page 8. And we'll be getting details of that in a short while. And at least this is how it is looking like. I mean, the front page of the People's Daily rather looks like. Sam.
Hey, what's up?
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Let's take a look at the front page of the Star this morning, how Ruto plans to create his coalition, and the DP now hopes to enter into agreements with regional and little-known startup parties. That story is on page 4 to 5 of the Star this morning, targeting the Tanga chief and how he's focusing on Western Coast, Northeastern, Central and Kisii regions to get him the top seat come 2022. Now, also pictured on the front page, we've got John Cardinal Njue giving an address at Nazareth Mission Referral Hospital, and he says he's proud of his record as an archbishop, and this comes in the wake of him being or having resigned as the Archbishop of the Diocese of Nairobi. But remember, he remains to be an Archbishop until he attains the age of 80. His move is informed by laws that govern the Roman Catholic Church, where an Archbishop can retire at the age of 75. Now, also highlighted on the front page, we've got MPs opposing bid by Treasury to raise the debt ceiling to 12 trillion Kenya shillings, and the BBI signature verification done in 2 weeks. This is as per the IEBC. That's the front page of the Star for you this Wednesday.
Now let us get to those details that we have promised to you, and starting with this particular story in regards to children who are still out of school and the circular that has been issued by the Ministry of Education in partnership or working with the Ministry of Devolution and Interior as well. And they this was information that was sent out in a circular that was sent out also under the office of the PS, saying that it was directed to regional, county and sub-county directors of education, saying that all children who are at home, including girls who have given birth, are expected to be taken to school by their parents, and the parents who refuse to do so will they risk being arrested. And so far we have chiefs, village elders and members of the Nyumba Kumi who are moving door to door to and hunting for learners who are still out of class and taking them back to school. Head teachers have also been instructed to submit daily attendance reports to sub-county directors of education to just make sure that the learners that are reporting to school are indeed those that are registered to that particular school, and also the new admissions that may have been taken by the different schools. So those parents who are staying at home and refusing to take their children to school due to the COVID situation have been warned and told that, you know what, by the end of the week, if you have not taken your child back to school, you risk being arrested. So you can read more of that there on the front page of the Daily Nation. They have also gone ahead, not on the front page, but on page 7, they've also gone ahead to say that the lack of fees is not a reason for you to keep your child at home. Take them to school. The rest will be figured out as things move on. Right.
Now, still keeping tabs with what is happening as far as the resumption of in-learning continues, there's a lot of uproar among journalists after the state now bans journalists from schools, and it has sparked a lot of protests. And according to journalists, they term the ban as interference with freedom of the media. They say the government does not want the sorry state of schools exposed. Now, over the last few days or so many video clips as well as photos have made rounds on both mainstream media as well as social media, as just journalists continue just keeping tabs on what is happening in our learning institutions, and it seems it has rubbed the state wrong, in a wrong manner. Now, according to Eric Odwor, as quoted in the Standard this morning, and this is page 8, he's a Kenya Union Journalist Secretary General. So he says, the media has exposed the sorry state and lack of proper preparation in our schools, something the government is not comfortable with. Now, with the new directive, it will mean that journalists will have to get an express permission from the Education Ministry to gain entry into the country's learning institutions. Now, before the directive, journalists only needed permission from the school management to gain access to institutions, but now with the government intervention, it may be a long process to find the approval. So, what do you think about this? And I'm really keen to find out what you, as our viewer, think about this directive given by the state in regard to what journalists can and can't do as far as our learning institutions are concerned. Remember, the role of the media is also to play guard dog. And as we're playing guard dog, we need to have the freedoms to actually do so. Now, with this particular directive, and quoting what the Secretary General there of KUJ has had to say, it infringes on press freedom at a time when we need to have all eyes peeled on our education sector in light of this current pandemic and the state of our learning institutions, both private as well as public. Remember, we are live, and our Twitter handle is as well, is open. You can get us at KBC Channel 1 News. Mine is at Ray Manyara. We have at Sam Dablin Joroge, at Doreen Arange, and at Jane Womboy. What's your take in regard to this latest development as far as coverage, or rather, getting into schools, or the coverage of schools and learning processes by journalists during this time?
Well, and keeping up with matters, schools, that story that was still on the front page of the PD in regards to schools, with the main caption, expectations high as school await free education billions. This was the money that's supposed to be disbursed to school, especially public schools, at least to help in running of activities there. And now the public schools across the country are waiting with bated breath tomorrow's release of funds to enable smooth running. This is actually a statement from the Education CS, George Magoha. He mentioned that yesterday, and he said that the amount is 14.6 billion. And other, actually 14.6 billion and other 4 billion captioned funds for secondary schools and primary schools respectively. So for secondary schools is 14.6 and for primary is 4 billion. He also said the money credited to various school bank accounts could, however, experience delays to reflect due to banking procedures, but assured all institutions that this money is, just as they have mentioned there, is actually going to be disbursed to different schools, different public schools, at least to help in operations as, we continue dealing with this issue of COVID-19. Again, also in regards to matters schools, remember that a good number of Kenyans, and also those that had been contracted in regards to either, to make desks or even chairs, a good number. Actually, there's one particular story of one artisan here who says that he hasn't been paid yet, and even at that, he has delivered 90% of the desk because he was contracted. This is a story of Kuria. He has also been pictured there. He mentions that the government had said that the government would give him 50% before he commenced. The government didn't give him that, so he had to borrow loans from friends and financial institutions to be able to do that work. And even up till now, he's done the work because he was contracted, made the desks, made the chairs, even delivered them to schools, but even up till now he hasn't been paid anything. And this is just him, but also the article well stipulates other contractors who had been given this work, and this is still the headache for most of these artisans because they've already done the work but haven't been given the money even as they await that. Sam.
Here, let's now take a look at some of the parties that the Deputy President is banking on. But before that, let's take a break and we return with that story as well as much more after these messages.
Muone Faisal ndio huyu aliwekelea bid ya TV na ndio hii anaenda nayo. Faisal, hebu tuambie ni vipi uliwekelea bid?
Nilienda kwenye website ya QuickBid. Nikatizama nikachagua kuwekelea kwenye TV. Sasa niliwekelea mara 3. Nikaja kwa mshindi, nikakutana bid yenye imenifanya kwa niko mshindi ilikuwa ni 168. Sasa leo nimekaitwa nikachukua nichukue TV yangu.
Haya Faisal, mali yako.
Tukusaidie.
Asante.
Jiunga na QuickBid ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bid yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16, kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bid yako pia kwenye www.quickbid.co.ke. Kumbuka, bid ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio hununua. QuickBid, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
Get ready for a 3 weeks Africa Football Feast as the new year kicks off with the 6th edition of the Africa Nations Championship in Cameroon. From the 16th of January to the 7th of February 2021, 16 teams from the continent will be spread across 3 cities as the best players from domestic leagues showcase their talents live on KBC Channel 1. Let's support our own. Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
See, selfishness is mean and destructive. Yours is for the greater good. And think of the boxers. How much good this gym brings into their life.
Do you really want to take on Abasi again? You know what he's capable of.
Basi won't let this one go. People will get hurt. Do you want that on your head?
Those children, lazima wapigane kwa nguvu. They cannot let that man win.
You are going to deny me what is mine again.
He's manipulating me and you. He knew you'd come to me.
You're telling me to step back for Julia and Manjala like you always do.
Next on.
I would like you to conceptualize the campaign launch of a new coffee product and base it on the concept that I call 3-in-1.
I don't think we should get married.
What?
There's another woman in my life.
That she got into an accident on the day that she tried to abandon her husband in order to flee with.
With whom, Mrs. Cello? With whom was she fleeing?
My love, I haven't heard from you in a long time. I see that your son still remembers who I am.
Two lionesses struggle to cohabit.
Because I'm not going to stand here and be compared to some...
Hey, Nancy, don't try me.
As the coastal vacation brings Nancy and Joe closer.
Nancy, you are full of surprises. What would you like me to do for you this morning?
Or will it be?
Now, can you give us some space? No.
He? Ni usherati.
Watch your mouth, Mother Teresa.
Or what?
This game that you and Nancy are playing.
Na nyinyi mmekuwa akina nani kuingilia mambo ya wazazi wenu?
Stringed, making a comeback. Hotter.
You're just gonna stand there and stare at us?
How do you think things will end up here?
This is a conversation between your father and I.
Sometimes it would be good if you would just stand your ground.
Wait, Mtoto, wait. What happens between me and Mama Paul is none of your business.
Bolder.
You know Mama Paul is leaving you.
So what?
What?
I'm done being your puppet and dancing to your tune and manipulation.
We called the clients and told them that the court has shut us down.
Only on KBC Channel 1. Fridays at 8:30 p.m.
Welcome back to the program, and as I had told you, I'll be giving you a lineup of some of the stories that the deputy, not stories but parties that the deputy president is banking on to clinch the top seat come 2022. Remember, his strategy now has shifted to regional parties, especially those that are not known or little known, in a bid for him to consolidate them to give him a win come 2022. Some of these parties are the Service Party, which was founded by former CS, that is Mwangi Kionjuri, and it is seen to have been unveiled as a backup plan for the former CS to consolidate the Mount Kenya region. But still within the same region, there is the People's Empowerment Party that is headed by Gatondo South Member of Parliament, or associated rather with the former, not the former, but the current Gatondo South Member of Parliament, that is Moses Kuria. The New Democratic Party, which came into the limelight after they won the last year's Lakeview Ward by-election. And also we have the People's Democratic Party that is associated with former South Mugirango Member of Parliament, that is Omigo Magara. We also have the United Democratic Alliance, formerly known as the Party for Democratic Reform or Development Reform, and it is associated with former Machakos Senator, that is Johnston Muthama. And talking about the Deputy President, today he is expected in Embu County to attend the funeral of the sister to the former Archbishop of Nairobi's diocese, that is John Cardinal Njoe, and that is Jones Wakenyua. He will be attending, or he's expected to be attending this funeral, which will be in Embu County at a place called Kereire. All right? So those are some of the stories associated with the Deputy President today, and we shall be giving you a lineup of more as they keep coming to our news desk.
Right. Okay. Let's get back to the Daily Nation. Let's get back to this particular story in regards to the fresh strike notice that has been issued by healthcare workers. So another strike is looming as governors have disowned this back to work deal that is said to have been reached between the Council of Governors as well as the clinical officers and doctors. So they have threatened to go back on strike if their return to work formula that was signed by the government is not honored by the governors. The county bosses yesterday said that the perks that have been agreed on in this particular return to work formula are just simply unaffordable at this particular time, and they further on went to say that they were not consulted before these figures were arrived at. Okay, so according and during a press briefing by the Kenya Union of Clinical Officers chair, that is Peterson Washira, he gave the governors a 48-hour window to sign the formula that was arrived at with a multi-agency team that was led by Labour, CS, failure to which they threatened to resume the strike that they had gone on. And they further on went to say that they really don't understand why the governors would go against this, given that they actually saw even the head of state urged them to end the strike and go back to work. But according to the Council of Governors COG, Mr. Oparanya, he said that some of the issues that were raised in this return to work formula have huge monetary implications, and most of which have not been factored in this financial year's budget and also the coming one. So if anything is to be arrived at, looking at these particular figures, it would require a special conditional situation to grant these wishes that they wish. So he further on went to say that they were not consulted in regards to these figures, and they will look for another way forward in order to reach to an agreement with the healthcare workers.
Now, our desk was actually following up on those two stories that you have highlighted, one from some of what is happening within the political scene, as well as what is happening with the healthcare workers and their looming strike. How about we start off with that report from Suleiman Yeri, where a section of political leaders in the country have come out indeed to support Senate Majority Chief Whip Senator Irungu Kang'ata over his controversial letter. Then what does this mean as far as politics is concerned?
Machakos County Governor Alfred Mutua says the move by Senate Majority Chief Whip to speak about the challenges facing BBI in Mount Kenya region is courageous and should be commended. According to Maendeleo Chapchap party leader, instead of castigating the Senate Majority Chief Whip, the BBI proponents should instead focus their efforts on addressing the issues raised by the senator.
Seen not less than 10 governors of the Mount Kenya region come together and say that all is well and that this is just a perception of Senator Irungu Kang'ata. What does that mean? It means that this topic is now at the top of the table. It also means that these governors and other leaders in that region will ensure that BBI succeeds properly. That is good for BBI.
Nyeri woman representative Rahab Mukami stated they will oppose the BBI if the issues raised by Kang'ata are not looked into and amended.
Hata ninajua ile kitu ilifanya Kang'ata andike hiyo barua. Jukure Muranga akienda kujaribu kuongelesha watu maneno ya BBI, anapigwa mpaka na mawe. Waache kudanganya president of this country. Mwambie ukweli kama wanamtakia mazuri. Ndio wajue ni nini wanaweza fanya na ni nini imefanya watu wakasirike. Na juu sisi ndio tuko hapa mashinani. Sisi ndio tunawaambia ukweli.
Meanwhile, Joseph Simiyu will be Ford Kenya flag bearer in the slated March Kabuchai constituency by-elections. Simiyu beat Eric Wanyonyi after garnering 70 votes, while Wanyonyi managed only 32 votes. Ford Kenya party leader Moses Wetangula, who was also a delegate, thanked Wanyama for accepting to concede defeat.
You fought a good fight, and as you say, this is not the end of any contest, politically or in any other manner for leadership. We encourage you to be part of now the journey that begins here.
A group of young people under the Vijana na Uongozi initiative has embarked on a journey from Nairobi to Mount Kenya region and back in a campaign meant to sensitize youths to rise up and compete for leadership positions.
Iwapo vijana wataungana wenyewe na wapate kumteua mmoja, hata ana uwezo wa kuingia katika vitengo mbalimbali vya uongozi katika taifa hili, haswa katika uchaguzi ujao na katika chaguzi zingine zijazo.
Suleiman Yeri, Channel 1 News.
Well, that is what is happening as far as politics is concerned. We're going to be keeping tabs on that in our consequent bulletin. But now let's look at matters of health, where the nurses and the government have not reached any deal after hours of negotiations that took the better part of Tuesday morning. According to Purity Museo's report here, is that there is a looming strike.
Three hours of closed-door negotiations to end the nurses' strike that has lasted for 28 days ended with no conclusive outcome. The Kenya National Union of Nurses would come out of the negotiation room with nothing to show helpless Kenyans writhing in pain in public hospitals for lack of health services.
We would wish to confirm that we are still going to continue with the negotiations tomorrow, and when we come up with a solution, or rather an agreeable return to work formula, we are going to inform you as to when maybe we will have agreed on everything.
Nurses officials who acknowledge goodwill from the government, however, say they are not ready to end the ongoing industrial action without a clear commitment from the employer to address their grievances.
Two levels of government are represented, and as you know, I cannot sign a return to work agreement if the authorized people have not signed. I cannot call off the strike before the execution of the agreement is done.
The union's Secretary General Seth Panyako says members will be patient and ensure a deal that will see protection of the frontline workers is reached.
We must also act diligently to ensure that we address issues that led our members to ask us to give a strike notice and indeed proceed on the strike notice. So I can confidently say that we have covered 99.9%. We hope the 0.1% will be covered tomorrow as early as possible so that we can allow our members to go back to work and serve Kenyans.
But as nurses were inching to a deal, clinical officers are threatening to go back to the streets in 3 days following a disagreement with the governors over the January 1st, 2021 return to work agreement, while clinicians called off the strike following a commitment from the two levels of government to have all their demands met. The governors say the demands are unrealistic and cannot be met owing to harsh economic times.
Kenyans have been receiving our services since 2nd of this year, and we cannot go back into this situation. But if they are not going to give us a way forward, in the next 3 days, we will have no option but to resume the strike, because if then there is no return to work formula, it means then the strike is still on, and then we'll be able to continue with the strike.
In a statement on Monday, the Council of Governors said they will not promise what they cannot deliver and wants medics to look at their demands. Purity Museo, Channel 1 News, Nairobi.
Indeed. We'll be keeping tabs on that as the day proceeds to see if there's going to be any development in regard to what is happening to our frontline workers there. Over the last few weeks, we've been seeing deals being signed left, right and center, and what the government has stamped as Christmas gifts as well as New Year gifts to Kenyans by the medical fraternity. We'll be keeping tabs on that as we proceed. Now, to highlight a story that has, taken Kenya by storm, if we can say, look, given the statistics that we've had of teenage pregnancies, that story that made its way on mainstream media A pastor from hells. That is the headline that has been given on the Standard this morning. Shocks admission, and this story has been captured on page 3. And he has confessed that he defiled and made his daughters pregnant. Now, one of his daughters has a baby while the other one is pregnant, and the 51-year-old man will be sentenced tomorrow after the prosecution produces the birth certificates of the victims. Now, according to Anthony Muigishi, the Kirinyaga Senior Principal Magistrate, is that since he told the court that he had defiled his daughters, he's going to be remanded awaiting his sentencing.
And actually, just before we move on from that story, just to add some details that have also been captured here on the Daily Nation, it is said that he actually did confess to having sexually abused his children between the periods of June 2019 up until August of 2020. They are alleged to be 14 and 16. The first one already gave birth to a 7-month-old baby, and the younger one is 6 months pregnant.
June 2019 to August. So this is
of
a year
2020.
plus.
Yes.
A year and some months.
Yes.
Your own child, your own daughter.
All this time I'm asking several questions, and one of them is that where is the mom?
When the mother found out that the eldest daughter was pregnant, and this is the account of the girl's aunt, she said that when the mother found out, she questioned the eldest. I'm just trying to understand who the father of the child is, and after a lot of back and forth, that's when she confessed that it was the father. She confronted the father, but he went on to threaten her by taking some dire consequences if he reported her. So she decided to keep it hush-hush. Much later, that is when she also found out that the second daughter is also expectant. And when she further pushed to find out who the father was, again, the daughter pointed to the dad. Now she's in a state where she is watching her daughter nurse a child whose father is also the grandfather. After not being able to go to report, she confided in the children's aunt. I'm not sure if it's her sister or the husband's sister, and that's when the aunt is the one who actually reported in the company of the mother.
The man is a pastor.
Yes, a very well-known pastor, mind you.
I'm just
and he actually said,
as the mother here, I'm wondering
to his excuse,
what I mean,
he was misled by evil spirits.
We blame the devil for so many things.
You know, actually, someone said that by the time, you know, ikifika time at the end of the world, the devil will say that you called me so many times and I was not even there. Because first of all, this man being a pastor, what does that say about values, you know, Christianity?
That aside,
what are you teaching?
That aside, Doreen, he may be a pastor, he may be the president, he was everything. He was the father to these two children. And that just goes beyond
whatever you are.
It transcends. That is pure evil, and blaming the devil for such a transgression from 2019 to 2020, and for the mother to just keep quiet simply because this man has threatened you. How far can
he's from the Akorino sect, by the way?
It doesn't really matter.
So what? So the evil spirits entered him, and this is why he's been for a year.
I'm really waiting to hear the developments that this case is going to take. I'm even stammering. It's that bad. It is that bad, you know? So you're raising a child who is,
and mind you, there's some details that I had missed here. At some point, he had taken the younger daughter to procure an abortion, and that is when the aunt intervened. You can read more of this story on page 3 of the Daily Nation.
So you get her
this
pregnant.
Family did not exist in an island or in isolation. People knew. People kept quiet. The first daughter gave birth. They knew what was going on. Now the second child is pregnant.
Wait, you get her pregnant, you take her for an abortion, you don't even care what the repercussion might be?
The younger one, mind you, they're waiting for the birth certificates to ascertain their ages, but according to this story, they are said to be 14 and 16.
I can't deal. We need to protect our children, even from our very self. I mean, the role of a mother is to nurture, and if you can let that happen to your own child, that's a total disservice. I don't know what you have to say, Sam, in regard to this matter. You've been awfully quiet.
Well, I haven't been quiet. I've been going through page 10 of the Star this morning.
You have nothing to say about this person? That's what we are asking. You know, maybe we're missing something.
No, I honestly, I don't have something to say. Not out of being...
Imekushock.
No. You know, there's so many daughters out there that are being defiled by their own fathers. There's so many fathers out there who are sleeping with their own daughters, and both have consented to it. There's so many angles that we may choose to peruse this story or pursue this story. However, a conversation around morality is one that I tend to take a back step.
It's not a morality
and
question,
take you to page
Sam.
10 of the Star. However, it's newsworthy, and that's why it finds itself to the headlines. Let me take you to page 10 of the Star this morning, and it talks of parents who are telling funny stories of kids ignoring anti-COVID rules. And this was inspired by a tweet that was done by Mohammed Walie, and it talked about the niece returning back back from school with a different mask. Kaulizwa na mzazi, what is happening? And she said that she swapped it with Angela because Angela's looked prettier. Okay, so going on, we've got Dismas here who's saying that his son is in PP3, and venye alienda kumchukua shule, he found him sharing a lollipop with the other child. Okay? Blaise Cassidy says, I'm waiting for my backbencher son because I think I will have him take a bath at the doorstep. And another one here says that, well, at least amerudi na mask. My nephew is back na anasema akonja. Can't ask about the mask because one of the shoelace is missing. So it's quite an interesting piece on page 10 of the Star, talking about parents' narration on receiving their kids from school on day one of resumption of in-learning. And of course, we keep observing and monitoring this situation to find out what exactly will come from it.
As interesting as it may be, it's actually a thing of concern which most parents were even asking about. How safe are these children in school? Now, keeping up with matters health, I want to come to another story, and this in regards to cancer patients, how they feel neglected, because most concerns have just been given on matters COVID-19, and this is in Embu, where cancer patients are now protested rather yesterday over alleged negligence, and it just continues to say that cancer patients in Embu yesterday staged a protest, and this is over claims they were being neglected by Embu Level 5 Hospital. About 10 patients who had appointment claimed they have been traveling long and costly distances for therapy in vain. They also accused the county government of negligence owing to its failure to address the ongoing nurses' strike. Now, a case in particular, Jane Muthoni, who had taken her ailing mother to the hospital for therapy, lamented that they have not been receiving treatment on several visits. She has now appealed to Governor Martin Wambora to address the nurses' strike so that at least they can resume duties and attend to them. So this is actually what is happening in Embu County, where cancer patients just on protest saying that they are being neglected and they're not being listened to.
Well, they're still talking. Let's shift gears to what has been happening on the corridors of justice, and now keenly focusing on Nairobi County. Now, the planned Nairobi gubernatorial by-election has run into another headwind as 3 petitioners are worrying that there is no vacancy in the governor's office. Is there? A report by Sefin Ache.
The petitioners, Paul Kados Kagua, who is a member of the Nairobi County Assembly, Evans Orenjo, an advocate, and Patrick Mwangi Kiiru argue that there is no vacancy as such in the office of the Nairobi County Governor. In their separate petitions, they stated that the Gazette notice declaring the Nairobi gubernatorial seat vacant and the subsequent planned by-election on February 18th were premature, as Polycarp Igathe, who was elected alongside Mike Sonko as the latter's deputy, had not officially resigned. They stated that Igathe's resignation stemmed from reports in the media in 2018 and that neither the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission nor the Nairobi County Assembly had received his formal resignation. They stated that the Constitution stipulates that should the office of the county governor fall vacant, the deputy takes over for the remainder of the governor's term. Sonko has also gone to court to stall the by-election, seeking to fault Senate for endorsing his impeachment by Nairobi County Assembly. For Scales of Justice, I'm Safin Aching Ouma.
From the corridors of justice, I'm sure you've been wondering how you're going to complete what we term as the 90 days of January. Now, shocker is the local banks say a second or third wave of the COVID-19 pandemic will lower the lending activities as most borrowers will struggle to service their loans due to the COVID-19 restrictions and disruptions. Now, according to the Kenya Bankers Association chair, that is Joshua Oigara, he's however optimistic that the arrival of the COVID-19 vaccine in the country will ease the current restrictions and show up economic activities. Here's a report by Benson Rioba.
Second wave of the coronavirus that is spreading in some European nations will further affect Kenya's export, as some major destinations such as Britain have announced lockdowns to try and contain the virus. The Kenya Bankers Association predicts that such new waves in the country and around the globe will affect the country's economy. KBS says the restrictions such as curfews will affect businesses, especially those in the SME sector, that might be forced to shut down due to liquidity challenges.
What we're not seeing is the recovery will take longer. So our sweet spot as an economy, when you're growing at 6.1, 6.2%, and all engines are firing, all pistons are firing, that is not happening in my view in the first quarter, second quarter. The only gap I would say for our economy is the crisis, especially the pandemic for corona, keeps, sometimes you hear new instances, new cases coming through.
The association adds that suppressed economic environment will reduce lending activities as most borrowers will be categorized as high risk.
I also like to return on the digital lending platforms, which have been affected significantly. I know a lot of customers do raise questions about what happened with my limits, what happened with my loan capability. That is something we see coming back.
However, the association chair Joshua Igara is optimistic that the newly developed COVID-19 vaccines will contain the virus, leading to the country's economy to pick up in the first half of 2021, with the trade, transport and manufacturing sectors as key drivers of the growth.
The chance of recovery on a number of sectors is we see very good signs. So one area you look at is trade. You look at transport, you look at manufacturing, you look at those segments that are driving. And that we are seeing huge upsides from us as an institution, as for the industry.
Financial institutions have been advised to leverage on mobile banking growth to increase their market penetration, especially in rural areas. Benson Rioba reporting for Channel 1 Business.
That report of what is happening within the commercial banks by Benson Rioba puts a cap to in the headlines this morning. Remember, you can get further details regarding stories that have been making headlines in the last 24 hours on our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke. But we take a short break. But during this break, we're also going to be giving you feedback on what is happening on our major roads before we start our interactive segment, where we're going to be talking about different things. I will be handling the safety of our children now that we have resumed in learning, and we'll be hearing from a pediatrician to just understand, in the event of an emergency, what do you do? So do keep it right here.
Muone Faisal ndio huyu aliwekelea bid ya TV na ndio hii anaenda nayo. Faisal, hebu tuambie ni vipi uliekelea bid?
nilienda kwenye website ya Quickbid. Nikatizama nikachagua kuwekelea kwenye TV. Sasa niliwekelea mara 3. Nikaja kwa mshindi, nikakutana bid yenye imenifanya kwa niko mshindi ilikuwa ni 168. Sasa leo nimekaitwa nikaja nichukue TV yangu.
Haya Faisal, mali yako. Tukusaidie. Asante.
Jiunga na Quickbid ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bid yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16. Kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bid yako pia kwenye www.quickbid.co.ke. Kumbuka, bid ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio ununua. Quickbid, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
Next on. I would like you to conceptualize the campaign launch of a new coffee product and base it on the concept that I call 3-in-1.
I don't think we should get married.
What?
There's another woman in my life.
That she got into an accident on the day that she tried to abandon her husband in order to flee with.
With who, Mrs. Cello? With whom was she fleeing?
My love, I haven't heard from you in a long time. I see that your son still remembers who I am.
Get ready for a 3 weeks Africa Football Feast as the new year kicks off with the 6th edition of the Africa Nations Championship in Cameroon. From the 16th of January to the 7th of February 2021, 16 teams from the continent will be spread across 3 cities as the best players from domestic leagues showcase their talents live on KBC Channel 1. Let's support our own.
Simujifanya ni washindani. Ngoja siku ifike.
Mimi ni paka mwitu nitakupa pura.
Ni usiku sasa, matatizo kuna nini?
Mtume! Nilikwambia wacha kuzungumza na mwanamke. She has no respect. Coming to my party. Wacha kunipiga, nipige.
Kuwa makini sana ule mke wako. La usivyo tukugharimu.
Mamako mwenyewe. Wewe usiniudhi. Sawa, wewe ulimwona mamangu?
Huwezi kunisaidia. Nenda zako. To you too. Cheers.
And at exactly 8 a.m. time for our next traffic link, we're still focusing on Outer Ring Road, and I told you it's because of that footbridge that has already been installed around Pioneer Estate. So right now we just want to check the traffic flow there. But remember, earlier on along Feather Road, there was a bit of a gridlock there, and that was actually on both lanes. So as you leave the areas around Nyayo Estate, Feather Estate, as you come to the city center there was traffic, and also as you leave Outer Ring Road branching to this specific route. And I had mentioned to you that the major reason as to why there's the kind of heavy traffic, or better still why there's traffic there, is because of the poor state of this specific route, or road rather, and also it has been earmarked for a construction. So when that happens, again, we'll be keeping tabs with this specific route to see how that comes along. But at least as of now, looks like things are opening up a bit, and that is on that section as you just branch from the Outer Ring Road coming all the way to Feather Road. On the other side, as you leave the estates, which I've just mentioned, coming to Outer Ring Road before you get to the CBD, on that section, things are still the same. Traffic beginning to slightly build up, and that's why we have that orange color there. So again, for our viewers coming from those areas, this is again best time for you to do that, because in as much as there's traffic there, at least it's not that kind of heavy traffic, so at least it's moving. Away from that, coming to Outer Ring Road, which is our focus, again looks like things are thick on this route as you leave the areas of Mombasa Road, branching actually as you leave the areas of Mombasa Road via Outer Ring Road, going all the way to Thika Super Highway, and also branching off to those major roads as well as slip roads on this specific route. Heavy kind of traffic on that particular, which is very interesting, because where there's heavy traffic is actually as you leave Thika Super Highway, as you leave Manyanja Road, as you leave Juja Road, as you leave Jogoo Road. I'm just mentioning some of the roads that branches off from this specific route, coming all the way through Outer Ring Road, heading all the way to Mombasa Road. So that's just where there's traffic, which is very, quite interesting, because it's on that lane where we wouldn't expect to see traffic as you're because it's actually as you're heading over to the estates. On the other side, where we'd really be expecting to see traffic, because it's on that lane as you're heading over to the city center. It's actually where it's green all through. So again, it means that there's no traffic at all. It's moving at a swift pace. So again, just reminder of viewers, this road, Outer Ring Road, its construction began in 2014 September, and at least that was already complete, and it was already open. Open to the public. So what they have been doing up till now is to ensure that the 11 footbridges which had been earmarked at different places are complete, because in as much as the road was constructed and expanded to make it easy for pedestrians as well as vehicle owners, both public and as well as private, one of the downsides that came with this expansion was the number of death cases, and hence it was the second road here in the country to record the highest number of death cases. This is after Mombasa Road, and it's because there were no footbridges. So it only meant that pedestrians will use the highway or the road to cross over. So this is why it was very necessary at least to install these bridges. 11 had been earmarked for in different areas. The first one was around Babadogo area. We've seen others being installed, areas around Mtindwa, coming all the way around next to Donholm there, and also what I think the 8th, which is what had been being installed at least late last year, was the one around Pioneer Estate, next to Pioneer rather, and all of that was just first of all to reduce the traffic flow, and then two, to reduce the number of death cases along this specific route. Now coming back to traffic, looks like things are getting thick just as you leave further, again coming through Outer Ring Road on that lane, coming to the CBD, which is actually so different, because on the other side it was green all through. Looks like at this particular area, traffic, really heavy kind of traffic all through as you're heading over to the city or the CBD there. Again, also as you branch off to Jogoo Road on that section, or where it used to be the Donholm roundabout, also again on that section there, heavy kind of traffic, but looks like Jogoo Road is not that bad, at least this morning. So if at all you're coming from the areas around further around Donholm, along Mombasa Road as well, in Nyayo Estate, coming to the city center, then clearly you can use Jogoo Road, just heading over to the CBD instead of actually coming all the way through Outer Ring Road. On the other side also, Manyanja Road, which is also one of those roads branching off from Outer Ring Road, things actually it's not good at all on this section, which is so different from how Jogoo Road looks like. On this other one, heavy kind of traffic, and also the interesting bit is that it's on the lane that is heading to the estates, which is actually Donholm, Jacaranda, Manyanja thereabout, which is so different from what you'd expect to see in this early morning hour. On the other side, as you're coming to the city center, where we'd expect to see heavy kind of traffic, on that specific one it's just a bit of orange and more of the green color, which ultimately means at least it's a smooth sailing. So again, for viewers coming from the areas around Manyanja, Jacaranda, Donholm, coming to the city center, this is again the best time for you to do that. As you are coming from this is what Thika Road, intending to use Outer Ring Road, or even as you're coming from Mombasa Road or even Jogoo Road, if at all you're going to the estates along this route, then clearly you have to make through this traffic here, because there is no alternative route heading over to that side. Now away from that, still sticking with Outer Ring Road, as you head over just next before you get to Juja Road, on that side also at least looks like it's green all through. So again, meaning that the footbridges which have been installed on these sections, they are serving their purpose. That's why I mentioned to you earlier that the main reason also is why these bridges are installed, away from just reducing the number of death cases on most of these roads or even major roads, is to also reduce on the traffic flow, because when you don't have the footbridges, then at least it makes the traffic police to sometimes stop the vehicle for pedestrians to cross over. But when you have that, at least pedestrians would use that, and then the roads just remain for the vehicle. So clearly as of now it's green all through. So again, it also means you don't have to look at any alternative routes, at least as of now. So probably in the next links we'll be looking at that, maybe alternative routes for our viewers plying Outer Ring Road, going about their businesses this early morning hour.
Karibu tena sana. In case you are just joining us, Karibu, this is Good Morning Kenya. My name is Jane Wamboi. We are glad that you have chosen to start your morning with us, and you are right in time for the first conversation for the day. But remember, we'd love to know where you're watching us from this morning. Talk to us using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya on Twitter. My handle is Jane Wamboi, and our official station handle is at KBC Channel 1. You can be able to find us using that particular handle both on Facebook and on Twitter. And I can see James Ndahu saying good morning, tuned into Good Morning Kenya. Thank you so much. We also have William Mwamburi who says, first and foremost, happy birthday, Samuel Njoroge. May you grow toothless. He goes on to say he is live and following the conversation from Watamu. KBC is well represented. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you for making time to be with us this morning. Keep talking to us using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya on Twitter. So right now we get into that first conversation as promised. And today, as mentioned earlier on in the intro, we're going to be having a conversation in regards to women and governance. And who better to help us understand this conversation than the Deputy Director of the National Integrity Agency Academy, that is Dr. Purity Gitonga. Karibu sana, Dr. Purity.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for making time to be with us this morning.
Thank you very much.
Now, once again, questions, comments, clarifications, we absolutely welcome them in regards to this conversation. So, for many people, when we talk about the National Integrity Academy, many people are like, hiya, we have an academy for under the EACC. Tell us a bit about that first, before we get further into this conversation.
Okay, thank you, Jane, for the opportunity, and particularly to speak about the National Integrity Academy of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. Let me say that the academy, referred to as the National Integrity Academy, NIACA, was started back in 2018. That's when it got registered with the Ministry of Education in July and officially launched in October 2018. And by December 2018, its curriculum was officially approved. So the academy opened its doors for the first class in 2019, and we were able to train at senior level, and this is on the leadership and integrity course for executives. So the academy has a number of courses that have been approved that we are running currently, and I'm glad to say that just December 2020, we were able to host the very first symposium and award of certificates for quite a number of public institutions, both at county and national government. Let me take you back to the courses that the academy is offering.
And even before you get to the courses, maybe for the benefit of our viewers to understand the purpose of this particular academy. Yes, we could start there before we get to the courses.
Okay, thank you. As the name implies, the National Integrity Academy trains on matters integrity. As I've mentioned, it is the training arm of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, and therefore helps articulate the mandate of the Commission, and that is the prevention of corruption, investigation of corruption, and creating a culture of integrity. So in essence, the purpose of the National Integrity Academy is to help create a culture of integrity, of service delivery, good service delivery, that as public officers in particular, we are able to offer that which the public expects of us. The academy is not just for the public officers, mark you, but also for the private sector. So should there be any private sector interested, the academy is ready to go.
The doors are open.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm glad to say that very soon, probably in 2 weeks' time, we'll be also having KBC as part of our trainees. Thank you. Yes.
We are part of the force that is at the forefront when it comes to ensuring, integrity is not something that most people are struggling with, because it has always been a big problem.
Yes,
we need
that's a way of life.
Enculturate it into the people.
Definitely.
Now, you were mentioning the courses that are offered when it comes to this, the courses that are offered at the academy.
Yes.
Tell us a bit more about that.
So far, we've started with about 7 to 10 courses. We have the one I've just mentioned, the Leadership Integrity course for executives. That's for the top level management. We've already held 2 programs for such at high level. We started with the commission itself at high level because we wanted to know this food that we are cooking, is it good food?
Before we give it out?
Yes, before we give it out. So that's where we started, and then we were able to branch out to include other institutions. At one time we had also the police, CID part of us, the judiciary is part of us, including the regional heads of the commission. That's one course. The second course is on corruption prevention in supply chain management. As we are aware, there are issues on procurement all the time in the papers, in the media. So that's one of our other courses. And remember, our focus is preventing corruption. That's our focus, and creating a culture of corruption, hence the terms. So corruption prevention in supply chain management. We've also corruption prevention in public financial management. We have one for ethics and integrity for education managers at whatever level. So a course that's tailored for people in the education sector. We have what we call the Integrity Assurance Officers Program, and we have quite a number of institutions register for that course because this is part of the Public Service Integrity Program and under the Performance Contracting Program that is run by the government.
Absolutely.
So those are some of the courses
that are being offered.
That are being offered. Tailor-made courses, should an institution want a course in a specific manner, specific area, then we're able to tailor that course for them.
For the specific organizations.
Yes.
Now, you have mentioned you're working with, various institutions across the country, both in the public and the private sector. And looking at this particular institution and more so the role of women and how they're represented when it comes to those who are seeking this information through these courses, the percentage of women who are involved when it comes to these courses, how are we looking?
I would say we are not disappointed as far as women nomination into the course is concerned. We are not disappointed. So far we are doing well.
Yes.
But definitely would want to see more women at senior level because there's a gap as far as that's concerned. So we'd want to see more women at senior level appointed and nominated for the courses. But so far we cannot as such complain.
We cannot complain.
Yes.
I
think it's good to appreciate where there's progress. We can say in the past, because I've been in the training docket for a long time, I would say in the past there was that bias that there were very few women compared to men. But of late, I think we are doing well.
We are doing better
as far as nomination for training is concerned.
All right.
Yes.
Now, this campaign about women and good governance is something that the Commission is onto right now. Because you could tell us a bit about the background to this particular campaign and the importance that you feel it's going to have in the community and the country as a whole.
Okay, thank you, Jen. Let me first say that we need to appreciate that women form quite a big percentage of the world population, or even of the country's population. We are at almost a half. If women are slightly
above the number,
the number, and that tells you that women ought to be represented by virtue of their numbers. We also take cognizance of the fact that women have become educated and they have the skills, they have the abilities, they have what it takes to run institutions. And we also need not forget the fact that women, besides the professional public life, women play a very, very critical role at the family level.
Yes.
It's a woman who nurtures this person who gets to that office. So starting from that point, the role that women play at nurturing young people, at nurturing even children in schools, then we cannot forget their place in society. So my take at a personal level is that we ought to look at this role that a woman plays right from home to the school environment, to the society, in the community, in the churches or in the religious institutions, and now in the public and the private sector. So we have to understand, besides the professional, there is also that other aspect that a woman has. And put together, then a woman can give a big role, play a big role in the society.
She's a force to reckon with.
Oh, definitely.
Now, just looking from the women that you have managed to interact with when, going about the training in these particular courses, and most of them are in leadership positions, at least for the ones you've interacted with, what are some of those common challenges that they have expressed that they are dealing with when they are in these positions of leadership in their different organizations?
Okay, thank you, Jane. I think I would say that women with time have been able to see themselves in positions of leadership, though the number is still far below what is expected. However, the women who have been able to ascend to high positions have been able to play a very critical role. First of all, they bring in, as I've said, their nurturing aspects, their feelings, their emotions, the fact that they have managed other skills, developed their skills right at home. They're able to bring this to the workplace. So that is a plus for them. Then the fact that they work hard. If you see a woman at a high position, you can tell that woman has really worked hard.
She's put in the work.
Yes, so they put in the work, they give what it takes, they have the skills, they have the competencies. So I think that is something that women are happy about. However, the challenge is that, as I've said, they have to work harder, sometimes far much harder than their counterparts, the male. But so that's a challenge they have to struggle with. Then the natural stereotypes, gender stereotypes, that probably women are not equal to. But I'm sure in Kenya we can look at a number of women who have been able to prove that women are equal to the task, and they can do a good job. And that is something that, yes, and they're able to raise the occasion. Another challenge definitely is that the balancing of the home domain and the office domain, the work domain, balancing those two is quite a challenge. But somehow, women have been able to make their own arrangements, either at home or in the work, as to how they do their work. The fact in the office, they're able to kind of involve and engage and make everybody a team member, and that way they're able to deliver and give results. Another challenge that I see women talk about or complain about is the fact that sometimes they have to really prove. They have to prove that they can make it, to prove themselves beyond reasonable. That's kind of, so that's a challenge. But so far, I think they're trying. Yeah, and I'm happy.
You're happy with the progress?
Yes, I'm happy with the progress. And therefore, I believe the National Integrity Academy, through its training, will be able also to raise the bar of the women higher and place them in higher positions.
Absolutely. Yes. And now when we talk about the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, now the Academy coming into play, corruption is at the center of, the campaigns and the fights that the commission has been onto, and now looking at the role of women when it comes to the fight against corruption, because many a times you're like, there's this stereotype that goes around about anything that requires a lot of joint force and power needs to come from the male side of the divide. But looking at the role of women when it comes to good governance and the fight against corruption, what would you have to say in regards to that?
I would say that women have a role to play, and I think they're playing their role. But we are here so that we sensitize ourselves, that we get more engaged. I'm here as a woman, engaged in the fight against corruption. I've been there for many years, for close to over 18 years. So that's a role I've been playing as a woman, and I believe there are many other women right at the commission and outside the commission. Particularly, I've said we have the integrity assurance officers. You'll be surprised, quite a number of them are women that are heading that docket in their various organizations. So that's a role they're playing. But I believe they can play a bigger role. And let me say this, Jane.
Yes.
We don't have to wait for corruption to take place for us to engage. Women's role normally come in the preventive aspect, the preventive approach, where they nurture a child, teach the child values, teach them the right character, teach them the right way, the right things to be done. So to me, that's a very critical role which we shouldn't forget. We need not to wait until things happen, until a corrupt deed and corrupt act has taken place, for women to come and say they are being involved. So I'm seeing women's role in the fight against corruption fundamentally right from the home to the community, to the groups, And I imagine a time when women will make integrity their agenda, even in their small groupings, even in the religious sector, even in their family, that they're able to speak about it. To me, I see their role very, very fundamental. And part of Commission's involvement is for us to begin to realize that we don't have to wait for things to go wrong for us to be engaged. And Jane, allow me to say that when we talk of corruption here, it's not just the change of money. I think that's the first thing I'd want to say. It's not just involving the change of money, let's say bribery, to say that corruption has taken place. I'm looking at corruption from a broad perspective, in terms of behavior, in terms of speech, in terms of being trustworthy, in terms of being honest. That's the way you are found to be honest, you are found to be trustworthy, your morals are right. So to me, that's how I look at corruption as a whole, because we can talk of corrupt behavior, not necessarily that I took a bribe. You can talk of a corrupt speech in that it destroys, it disarms, it weakens. So even a corrupt speech, that to me is corruption. So I'm moving away from corruption in terms of involving money to our behavior, our conduct, our speech, and our lack of trustworthiness. So that's how I look at this corruption. Hence, I'm seeing women playing a very critical role in nurturing this character that will be able to say no to the wrong things. Yes.
Because I believe there's a gap when it comes to the information about the different forms of corruption that exist. Because there was this famous saying that was circulating on social media a while back that it stops being corruption when you start benefiting from it and it starts being connections. So you see, understanding the different forms of corruption is something that
very important.
Is lacking in among most of the people. And this also brings me to the next aspect about, and also about women, because when you talk about issues to do with corruption, we always think of it on a national scale, not getting down to the nitty-gritties and understanding the consequences of corruption, and more so looking at women in this particular case. What have you been able to see when it comes to these different forms of manifestation of corruption and how it is affecting women on a very direct level?
Yes, thank you, Jane, for that, because to be honest, as I've said, we have to look at corruption from the behavioral perspective and not just money. And for that reason, we have to look at how this behavior therefore affects a woman and takes away the rights of a woman and takes away what a woman or women should benefit from the society, from a government, and from any service giving institution. Therefore, women get affected directly and indirectly by corruption. I'm looking at, if I'm to give an example of direct effect of corruption on women, I'm looking at that woman in the village who has no money to give to somebody who is demanding. And sometimes they are threatened that if you don't give me, then, let's say the required bribe, then I'll no service for you. During our trainings, unfortunately, we've come across cases where people have given examples of how women have been forced to give themselves because they cannot afford the bribe. So that's a direct effect of corruption on a woman. There are many studies indicating, unfortunately, that girls in schools, in universities, in the villages are forced to give their body. And that's why I'm moving away from corruption that involves money to where somebody's life has been corrupted by somebody who is demanding a certain service before they can give their service.
And mostly someone who is in a position of power.
Always when we talk of corruption, it's somebody who is using their position of power, position of responsibility, authority, and misusing it or abusing it for their gain without caring about the public or this member of public that they are serving. So there are direct costs and effect of corruption on women, and that's very, very unfortunate. Unfortunately, the studies are limited, so I believe that's one area that we need to get into, looking at how corruption has directly affected women specifically.
Yes.
And does it have greater impact on women than it has on men? But so far, it indicates there are. And from our trainings, we've gotten that feeling. Indirectly, definitely women are affected. Again, this woman is the caregiver at home. She has to provide in terms of food, in terms of clothing, in terms of means of livelihood to their child, to their children. And it is the woman who goes to hospital. It is the woman often, I'm not discriminating on men,
but more often
than not, it is women who take these children to school, walk them to school, and take them for clinics, to the hospital, etc. And that's where sometimes corruption has an effect on women. Because they fail to get the service. Yes. They have spent their whole day taking their child or themselves to either health center, but their time is wasted when they don't get that service. So the indirect effect of corruption on women is real, and we can't run away from that.
That is a reality.
But part of our training is to therefore try to see how can we as public officers enhance service delivery as is expected of us.
All right, and we want to take a very quick break, but when we get back, you just want to look at how we can promote the idea of women actively being involved in the fight against corruption, and also looking at the consequences that arise as a result of corruption. Now, this is a conversation about women and good governance in line with the fight against corruption, and we want to take a break, but we'll be right back to continue with this conversation. Questions, comments, clarifications, we welcome them. We will be addressing them after this quick break. To stay with us, we'll be right back.
Muone Faisal ndio huyu aliwekelea bid ya TV na ndio hii anaenda nayo. Faisal, hebu tuambie ni vipi uliwekelea bid?
Nilienda kwenye website ya QuickBid. Nikatizama nikachagua kuwekelea kwenye TV. Sasa niliwekelea mara 3. Nikaja kwa mshindi, nikakutana bid yenye imenifanya kwa niko mshindi ilikuwa ni 168. Sasa leo nimekaitwa nikaja nichukue TV yangu.
Haya Faisal, mali yako.
Tukusaidie.
Asante.
Jiunga na QuickBid ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bidi yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16, kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bidi yako pia kwenye www.quickbid.co.ke. Kumbuka, bidi ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio ununua. QuickBid, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
But the sweet pleasure that I get by treating him like an animal and seeing him suffer each day would not have been possible.
The royal physician's house is on fire. What? And he also died in that fire.
Kichak, King Bindusar had given the seal to his son Ashok, not to you.
Ashok?
Prince Ashok!
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
See, selfishness is mean and destructive. Yours is for the greater good. And think of the boxers. How much good this gym brings into their life.
Do you really want to take on Abasi? Again? You know what he's capable of.
Basi won't let this one go. People will get hurt. Do you want that on your head?
Those children lazima wapigane kwa nguvu. They cannot let that man win.
You are going to deny me what is mine again.
He's manipulating me and you. He knew you'd come to me.
You're telling me to step back for Julia and Manjala like you always do.
On the next episode of
Aisha, Suniambie nini kinachoendelea?
Masudi mpeleke General Hospital huyu hebu.
Unipeleke General Hospital kwani mimi ni mgonjwa?
Kwanza mpatikana kwa ajali kubwa sana.
Mambo ya pesa yatoka wapi? Jana ulizungumzia kuhusu nini wewe? Si uliambia mzee wangu kuhusu maamri?
Masudi hebu mwambie nipatie pesa zangu.
Mtoto wangu basi.
Pole.
Pole.
This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
Remember, it was my idea to begin with, and there is no group. It is just me and you.
You have to skip to my room if you want me to cooperate, okay? There is no man in this world who likes to be around like a chicken.
Your opinion too. Why don't you put your feelings in check? What is your problem? What do you want?
And what about the video Atito was showing you?
What video?
Yes, what video?
Hey, teacher, don't mind her. She forgot to take her medication in the morning.
Well, that better be the truth. Bunch of idiots.
Did you just call us idiots?
I'm sorry, that came out wrong now. You see, this thing happened. Slippery gun.
Maybe they don't have money. Maybe we should just stick with the original plan.
Classmates, every Saturday on KBC.
And these are the images I had said that I would be showing you. This is in regards to the outer ring road. How about we start from the major road itself? So this is actually how it is looking like, at least as of now. I told you that this specific road, the construction began in 2014. It took about 4 years, and all they were doing was just to expand this road, given the fact that also along outer ring road there are so many estates. So that is also why they were expanding it. And the road begins all the way from just as you leave Mombasa Road around Taj Mahal area. They are going all the way to around Allsops, the GSU place, so all the way to just before you get to Thika Super Highway there. So the road being expanded to an 8-lane road, and part of what had come in regards to complaints from Kenyans or residents on this specific area is that they mentioned there were no pedestrian walkway, there were no footbridges rather installed, there were no bus stops. And at least this is what the different bodies such as Kura can have just been trying to do to ensure that all this is put in place. They had earmarked 11 areas around this route just to install foot bridges. The first one was installed along Babadogo area. That was the first bridge to be installed on this specific route. And at least also ensure that bus stops are put in place. So that specific area which we're trying to focus on today is actually this area. This is next to Pioneer Estate. So what they were doing last year, at around just towards the end of last year, they had closed this route to ensure that they put up the footbridge truss, which is what you're seeing on your screen there, so that when the bridge is installed, at least it could be strong enough to be able to accommodate pedestrians. So right now, this is already complete and opened up to the public. So what you're trying to do today is just to check the traffic flow on this specific area to try and see if it has served its purpose, because like I've kept mentioning to you, is that part of the major reasons to why bridges are normally installed, in as much as they try to reduce the number of death cases, is also to ensure that traffic flow is, to ensure that they reduce on the traffic flow. And I was explaining to you that that happens in this particular way. When you don't have these footbridges on most of these major roads, what it makes the traffic police to do sometimes is to stop the vehicles so that pedestrians can cross over, and ultimately that leads to traffic congestion. So if you have the footbridges, what it serves is just at least to ensure pedestrians use the bridges from one side of the road to the other side, and the major road remains for vehicles both public and private. And also that is what the pedestrian walkways as well as cyclist lanes, that is also part of what they serve. And you can clearly see also from this particular image of how it is looking like we still also have that in place, the pedestrian walkways as well as cyclist lanes. I've told you time and again that every road that has been earmarked for either an expansion, a reconstruction, or just construction altogether, what at least they're planning to do is to ensure that NMT is put in place, and NMT again is inclusive of pedestrian walkways as well as cyclist lanes, so that you can have vehicles on this major roads just like what you're seeing right there, and you have pedestrians having their lanes and cyclists also having their particular lanes. So how about we look at the traffic flow on that of that area, just as I was showing you on those images there. And so this is actually how Outer Ring Road is looking like. Looks like again as of now things have opened up, so again it's just great green all through. So also the green color just means that there's no traffic at all, just for viewers to understand what the difference in colors means. So the green color means that there's no traffic at all, moving at a really, really fast pace. And this is how it is looking like as you leave the Donholm roundabout, coming all the way through Outer Ring Road, also branching to Jogoo. Looks like there's no traffic there. Again, also green all through. So just where there's a bit of traffic is along Manyanja Road, which comes all the way from Jacaranda Estate, Donholm, as well as also Manyanja. But looks like things have opened up there. And also I keep telling you all the time is that traffic changes every single minute. So it could mean that right now you could be experiencing or seeing heavy kind of traffic, but in the next minute things just opened up altogether, just like how it is on this specific route. So at least a bit of a green there just before you get to the Donholm roundabout. So also for our viewers coming from those areas, again, at least right now doesn't look that bad for you. And again, as you branch off to Jogoo Road from leaving Outer Ring Road, also not that bad. Also coming from Outer Ring as well. This is coming from Feather Estate, Feather Road. Looks like also things have opened up on that specific route. Now, part of the reason as to why we're looking at these roads is because I've told you earlier that Outer Ring Road is one of those major roads, and it branches off to sleep roads as well. And key among them is just what we're looking at. Feather Road in place there. There's Jogoo, there's Manyanja Road on the other side as well. And looks like also things are opening up on this particular route. This is Feather Road. You can remember earlier on there's a bit of heavy traffic as you head over to the city center, and also as you leave CBD via Outer Ring Road, branching off to Feather Road. So what you're seeing there is a bit of orange, so it looks like, at least it has opened up a bit, because in as much as there's traffic there, at least the manageable kind of traffic. And this goes all the way even past as you leave Feather, coming through Outer Ring. You can see also the green color there again, also meaning there's no traffic moving really, really fast. And the beauty is that this is actually on both lanes. Look at that, on both lanes, no traffic, moving at a swift pace. Also around this area, the Mtindwa area, it had also been closed sometime last year to necessitate the installation of a footbridge around this area. And you can look at that. Look at how it is serving its purpose. Again, as I mentioned, to reduce on the traffic flow. This is that area where they were installing the fifth or the 6th footbridge, and this is how it is looking like as of now in terms of traffic. Green all through on both lanes. So again, as you leave the areas around Taj Mall, all the way from Mombasa Road, and also as you leave Thika Superhighway using Outer Ring Road going to various places, green all through, no traffic at all. Again, as you branch off to Mtindwa Road, also green all through, no traffic at all. So again, just showing us that the reason as to why they were installing these footbridges really serving their purpose. Away from that, still keeping up with Outer Ring Road, because that's our focus this morning, coming all the way with the same route as you branch off also to Kangundo Road on the other side. At least not looking that bad. A bit of a red colors there's, just meaning that traffic moving at a pretty slow pace. But also this is specific on that lane as you leave the roundabout, which is the Outer Ring Kangundo roundabout, heading over to Kangundo Road on that side. So that's just where there's a bit of a traffic there. But on major parts of this particular roundabout, at least also green all through, which also means, again, we do not have to look at any alternative routes as of now. If at all you're coming from Outer Ring Road, not that bad at this hour in terms of traffic.
Welcome back. This is still Good Morning Kenya, and we continue with the conversation revolving around women and good governance. And with us in studio this morning, we have with us Dr. Purity Gitonga, who is the Deputy Director in charge of the National Integrity Academy under the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. Now, to just pick up from where we left off, in this conversation about women and good governance, yes, what more can we do to just encourage more women to actively participate when it comes to the promotion of the fight against corruption and actively being involved in good governance?
Okay, thank you, Jen. Allow me to get back and say very quickly that when we talk of governance, yes, we are talking of how to advance our status as women, as men, as people of this country, how to bring progress, yes, how to ensure that everybody is happy and satisfied with the services that are offered. It's about development. And therefore, I find women playing a key role in ensuring that society advances and develops and progresses. Therefore, and I've looked at a few cases in some countries as I think of governance, and I was very happy to note that where women have been representatives, either at county level in other countries, for example, India, where there were women representatives, there was a correlation between what they did and progression, particularly in the provision of water in India. And that was marked. Come to another country like Norway, where women were the representatives were involved in governance. Again, there was progress in as far as child care coverage was concerned. So I've noted that when women are engaged in governance, there's progress. And that's what we are talking about. We want to see progress, we want to see advancement, we want to see service delivery. And I thought those two cases were very good for us to take note of. Hence, to encourage that women be involved in matters governance, because women play a very key role as far as development is concerned. For that reason, then, I would wish that women are engaged in a higher scale and in greater numbers than they are currently. Unfortunately, in Kenya, we are yet to meet the threshold of what is expected of women representation. Unfortunately, compared to the other East African countries, Rwanda seems to be the best in the world, and I pray that we can be able to take that example. So that's what I would wish, that women are able to engage. Again, why we should have women in governance, and more of them, is because studies also indicate that women have a tendency to be less corrupt than men. Those are studies. I think more of these studies need to be done. Therefore, there is need to sensitize men to support women in governance. There is need for women also to volunteer and be ready to engage and to develop their own confidence, to want to dare to engage and be part of governance. In matters anti-corruption, it starts with reporting. It starts with reporting where they see something not going right. I think we all have a duty, a civic duty, to report and say, I'm seeing things are not right in a certain department, in a certain ward, in a certain department, etc. But before, other than reporting, I said how we nurture the ones that have been put in our hands is also very, very critical. Other than that, then, I think we need to sensitize ourselves, all of us, and ask ourselves what ought to be done. And ask, you've been appointed or you have been engaged in this position, what is my agenda? Because it's one thing to occupy a position in governance, but it's another thing to have an agenda and ask, where are you directing this department, this ministry, this institution that has been placed in your hands? So to me, it's not so much also an issue of women, it is also us as women having an agenda that we want to drive, and an agenda that will bring advancement, an agenda that will bring prosperity, an agenda that will bring fulfillment to the citizen that we serve. So to me, once we have that as women, I think I would say women and governance is the right way to go.
We will be on the right track.
We'll be on the right track
achieving what we hope for our country.
Yes, because we really, it's not occupying a position. It's not having a title, but it is delivering results to the citizens of Kenya.
Progressively.
And progressively doing that. And then we'll be able to say in 2020, we're in this position. In 2025, we've been able to. I've cited 2 examples of India where women leaders were able to bring projects to their communities, and that gave advancement and progress to the people. I've cited the case of Norway, where women leaders or women in governance were able to bring child care coverage to their people. So what agenda do we have? Where do we want to steer this position, this institution that has been entrusted to us? Because to me, governance is steering something in the right direction.
Absolutely. Yes. Now, in trying to steer, even most of the women, in particular in this conversation, in the right direction, maybe you could tell us, when it comes to sensitization as an academy, what are you hoping to do, at least for 2021, in trying to encourage more women to take up such leadership courses, even if it's not from an organizational point of view, but from even an an individual point of view to just get those necessary skills that we need to be able to get us to that position that can help you as a woman advance the country and the whole continent and globe for that matter.
Yeah, thank you, Jen. I think you said it. It's not just again about gender, but as women, do we have the substance? Do we have the right skills? Do we have the competencies? So it's again, we ought to develop ourselves so that we are able to compete and compete well with men and compete well amongst ourselves. So we must have the substance that we are ready to give and to offer, the skills, the competencies that we have to offer. Now, as an academy, thank you for that question. We've been very careful, even in the selection of our speakers, in the selection of our guest speakers, facilitators, in ensuring that we don't leave women out. And allow me to say, in the last symposium that we had the Auditor General, who is a lady, as one of our key speakers. In the academy was able, allow me to say this, we were able to organize 2 international conferences virtually, and the ministers, the cabinet secretary for gender and youth affairs was our chief guest. Again, that's women in governance. We had quite a number of other ladies as our speakers. We had Honorable Karua as one of our speakers, because as an academy, we have to look at all issues that affect the country. So whenever we are making choices of our speakers, either guest speakers or facilitators, we also take care that we have women involved and women of substance. And therefore, that's why I'm very careful that we really have to develop ourselves as women in terms of our competencies, in terms of having an agenda that we want to carry with us in the positions that we've been appointed. Again, developing women. We have courses that I've said we have, very good courses, I can tell you for sure, because we are very careful in appointing facilitators. Again, I would encourage our women to register for our courses, if not for our courses, for any other course, that every time you're developing yourself.
You're learning a skill.
Learning a skill, even attitude. I realize that on a daily basis I ask, what have I learned? Whenever I go to a situation, what have I learned? So we should always be out to pick new ideas, new way of doing things, new way of new perspectives to life. So as women leaders and women in governance, that's what I would really wish, that we encourage ourselves.
All right. Now, as we draw the conversation to a close, we are talking about women and good governance, and as a population, the women do not exist in a bubble. We're in a population where we have our male counterparts. And maybe one is watching and is wondering, okay, this whole conversation about empowering women in line with good governance, what role can I as a man play in encouraging more women to take up, learn their skills and take up an active role when it comes to good governance? How can our male counterparts encourage even our women to take up an active role in the fight against corruption and good governance?
Thank you. I think that's very critical. As much as we are saying all this, we cannot move without our male counterparts.
Absolutely.
And I think we ought to take that into consideration. We need our male counterparts in the fight against corruption, in governance, and even in women governance. So we need their support.
Yes.
And we need them to appreciate, to understand the role that we play. And in life, I think we've realized, I've learned that the minute we appreciate what the male do and what the female do, or what women can do, then we'll be able to move in the same direction, supporting one another, complement each other. So as much as we are talking of women and good governance, we are not removing men from the equation. Not quite.
All right.
Yes, they are part and parcel of this conversation. So complementing laws.
So gentlemen, don't take a back seat and say, okay, women, you wanted the opportunity, take it, do you?
And I think that's, we need to move away from that past, that women were thought that they're fighting men. No, that's not the case. It's a complementary role. It's understanding each other, appreciating each other, and knowing that women can offer this better, while men can offer the other better. Yes. So very, very much complementary role.
We all have a role to play.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
All right. Now, when it comes to also issues to do with reporting incidents or cases of corruption, or the different forms of corruption that you may get to witness, and maybe a lady might be watching us and wondering, okay, I would like to do that, but will I be safe? Like, will I be put in the public space as the person who reported this? How is my safety guaranteed? And even looking at how you can go to just report these issues to do with corruption and misdeeds that you get to witness.
Let me encourage Kenyans. Like I said from the very beginning, that I belong to the preventive arm of the commission.
Yes.
I believe that prevention is better than cure, and prevention takes place before the facts. And then it's after prevention that investigation takes place. Investigation runs after that who has engaged. So investigation comes after the fact. Now, I would encourage my fellow Kenyans that suppose we prevent corruption from taking place in the first place. And this starts with me and you at individual level.
Yes.
So at individual level, we can make that choice, that personal choice, and that decision that I would not engage. So to me, that's where we start. That personal choice that I will not engage in corruption. Temptations do come, and they're there, but heeding is one.
Yes.
Secondly, reporting, definitely sometimes we are not reporting out of malice. So I should mention that reporting should not be done with malice. So if you're making a report, ensure that your facts are right, ensure that there's no malice behind your report. And of course, when you are reporting, you also do it with wisdom. You don't go shouting and telling everybody that I've reported. After all, you people, you are doing this. So
Nimetoka Integrity Center.
Integrity Center, yes. So it's done with a lot of wisdom, a lot of decorum, and I've said not with the malice. You are reporting because something wrong is happening.
And it has to be factual.
And it has to be factual.
Yes.
And you're not doing it out of malice. So let Kenyans know that it is the right thing to report. We have Huduma centers. I mean, EACC is represented in all Huduma centers in Kenya. So there will be an officer there to receive a report. They will guide you. So you can go to any Huduma center in Kenya and you find our EACC office represented. We also have regional offices across the country. We have 11. We have one in Kisumu. We have one in Eldoret, we have one in Nakuru, we have one in Machakos, in Malindi, in Mombasa, quite a number. So you can go to the regional offices and report, and you'll be well guided in a very, very professional manner.
Yes.
And I've said no malice. And then in the event you have a computer or you have access to internet, you can get to the internet, EACC website, and there's an anonymous reporting. In that case, nobody will get to know who has reported.
It's to do with security,
yes, for purposes safety, because that's very key, that's fundamental. We don't want people attacked for that, but that's what I've said, wisdom. Therefore, there's an anonymous reporting in our option in our website, and that can help people make a report.
All right.
Yes.
So if you are wondering how you can report an incident of corruption that you may have witnessed and have facts to support your case, you can just check out their social media, get to the website. There is the option of reporting anonymously. If you are fearing for your own safety, you can be able to take up that option of reporting anonymously. Now, as we close this conversation, and just trying to make sure that it's not a one-time conversation that we're having here on Good Morning Kenya, issues to do with women and good governance, what will be your message to our viewers this morning? Just encourage this whole conversation to be something that is progressive and not just a one-time conversation that we're having here.
Yes, that's true. We wouldn't want to be a one-time. We would want to engage with the women in the academy. We would want to roll out a course on issues governance related to women. That's something we endeavor to do as a tailor-made course. That is now on the academic aspect. I'm sure we can have such forums either through, we normally have EACC officers visiting counties.
Yes.
During such forums, we can tailor such a program and discussion through radio, through media. That would be one way of doing it. Much more, we want to engage again with women even in the counties. Occasionally we have programs in the counties, so we can definitely tailor a program, even for those in public office, that we begin to address the issue of women in governance. And we are emphasizing governance here is where we are ensuring progress for this country, advancement for this country. Absolutely. And engagement and involvement. 2022 is coming. Yes. I'm sure that will be an election year for Kenya. What about supporting women? Given the examples that I've said, that women do bring development and women do have an agenda. So can we support other women during such elections? And like I've said, Kenya, we are not quite well as far as representation of women is concerned. Following the examples of other countries, we need to pull up our socks a little bit. So I think that's an engagement we can have. With time, I'm sure we'll have another chance. Absolutely. To the studio, to KBC studios. To
make sure that, this conversation is not just a one-time talk that we're having here on Good Morning Kenya, but more of a conversation that cuts through time to just make sure that our women are supported when they take up those opportunities of leadership more so here in our country. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. It's been a pleasure, and thank you very much for according us this opportunity.
You are absolutely welcome. We have been speaking with Dr. Purity Gitonga. She is the Deputy Director in charge of the National Integrity Academy under the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. That brings us to a close of this conversation in regards to women and good governance. And as we have said, it's not just a one-time conversation. Let's keep it going, and only you and I can do so. We take a break, but we are not yet done with Good Morning Kenya. Do stay with us. More coming up after this break.
Muone Faisal ndio aliwekelea bid ya TV na ndio hii anaenda nayo. Faisal, hebu tuambie vipi uliwekelea bid?
Nilienda kwenye website ya QuickBid. Nikatizama nikachagua kuwekelea kwenye TV. Sasa niliwekelea mara 3. Nikaja kwa mshindi, nikakutana bid yenye imenifanya kwa niko mshindi ilikuwa ni 168. Sasa leo nikaitwa nichukue TV yangu.
Haya Faisal, mali yako tukusaidie. Asante.
Jiunga na QuickBid ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bid yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16, kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bid yako pia kwenye www.quickbid.co.ke. Kumbuka, bid ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio ununua. QuickBid, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
See, selfishness is mean and destructive. Yours is for the greater good. And think of the boxers. How much good this gym brings into their life.
Do you really want to take on a Basi? Again? You know what he's capable of.
Basi won't let this one go. People will get hurt. Do you want that on your head?
Those children, lazima wapigane kwa nguvu. They cannot let that man win.
You are going to deny me what is mine again.
He's manipulating me and you. He knew you'd come to me.
You're telling me to step back for Julia and Manjala like you always do.
sexes struggle to cohabit.
Because I'm not going to stand here and be compared to some...
Hey, Nancy, don't try me.
As the coastal vacation brings Nancy and Joe closer.
Nancy, you are full of surprises. What would you like me to do for you this morning?
Or will it be?
Now, can you give us some space? No.
He? Unaona hii? Ni usherati.
Watch your mouth, Mother Teresa.
Or what?
This game that you and Nancy are playing.
Na nyinyi mmekuwa akina nani kuingilia mambo ya wazazi wenu?
Stringed, making a comeback. Hotter.
Just gonna stand there and stare at us?
How do you think things will end up here?
This is a conversation between your father and I.
Sometimes it would be good if you would just stand your ground.
Wait, Mtoto, wait. What happens between me and Mama Paul is none of your business.
Bolder.
You know Mama Paul is leaving you.
So what?
What?
I'm done being your puppet and dancing to your tune and manipulation.
We called the clients and told them that the contract is down.
Only on KBC Channel 1. Fridays at 8:30 p.m.
The magic of FA Cup is back with mouth-watering ties as the Premier League and Championship clubs enter the competition in the third round. KBC Channel 1 will ensure you don't miss out, live and exclusive on your True Sports partner from the 8th to 11th of January 2021 as we kickstart the new year with you in mind. Save the dates for the best and route to the finals.
Next on.
I would like you to conceptualize the campaign launch of a new coffee product and base it on the concept that I call 3-in-1.
I don't think we should get married.
What?
There's another woman in my life.
That she got into an accident on the day that she tried to abandon her husband in order to flee with.
With who, Mrs. Cello? With whom was she fleeing?
My love, I haven't heard from you in a long time. I see that your son still remembers who I am.
Past 9, just to recap for our viewers why we're looking at Outer Ring Road today. This is in regards to just what has been happening on this specific route. I had mentioned earlier that the process of expanding this road and reconstructing it began in 2014. It took about 4 years. Part of the downsides that came with it was that many businesses had just to be demolished, and also again part of the downsides that came with it after it was already complete was that there were no bus stops, there were no footbridges. So what the different bodies designated to make our roads look better, what they mentioned is that 11 footbridges were to be installed on this route. The first one was in Babadogo area. That was already complete and opened up to the public. 3 others, at least, also already complete and opened up to the public. One was in Huruma area. The other one was in Kariobangi. So mid last year, what they were doing was installing the 5th one, which was around Mtindwa area. And in addition to that, even as they were installing the 5th one, 4 others had been earmarked. One was around Tena Estate. The other one was an Quarry Junction Estate, and the other one was in Pioneer, which is actually what you're looking at today. So late last year now, what was complete and already opened up to the public is the one in Pioneer Estate. So when they were when the 4 had been earmarked, they had actually, the 4 of them had been half installed. So what that means is that it looked something like this. The half installation actually means something like this, where there's only the footbridge truss, so that when the footbridge actually comes into place, it can be strong enough to, you know, to be able to actually even accommodate people as they move from one side of the road to the other side. So what was happening mid last year is that this 4 had been earmarked and half installed, and part of what happened late last year was to ensure that the one in Pioneer Estate, you know, was already complete and opened up to the public. So the reason that's why we're looking at the traffic flow this morning on Outer Ring Road is just to check how all this has panned out and how it is affecting the traffic on this specific route. And if you can remember, earlier on, at least on major parts of this route, the kind of traffic was not really that, you know, that heavy traffic. And on major parts, in fact, on specific areas where the footbridges have already been installed, if you can remember, it was just a smooth sailing. One area in particular is actually this one. This is the Mtindwa area. this is actually where mid last year they were installing the 5th footbridge. Look at how it is looking like in terms of traffic. Green all through. Now the green all through comes all the way as you leave Thika Superhighway from the Allsops roundabout, branching off to different other roads, coming all the way via Outer Ring Road. Again, as you branch off to different other roads, going all the way to Taj Mall just before you get to again Taj Mall all the way to Mombasa Road, and also on the other side, leaving those areas that I just mentioned, also branching off to some minor roads as well as some sleep roads, heading all the way to Thika Superhighway. So on this section where you're seeing the green, this is the Mtindwa area where the bridge was being installed. And I had mentioned to you earlier that part of the reason as why they were doing this, aside from just the reduction of accidents, was also to reduce on the traffic flow. So when you see this green color, it just means that it is actually serving its purpose, because look at how it is looking like in terms of traffic, green all through. And this is actually as you leave the Donholm roundabout, coming all the way with the same route. Also, as you leave Jogo Road, coming with the same route, and again leaving the other side, still using Outer Ring Road, branching off to different sides. So also for our viewers coming from the areas around Umoja, Donholm, Mtindwa, because this is actually that particular area, also it's a smooth sailing for you. So clearly, as of now, we do not need to look at any alternative routes, and this goes all the way even past Buruburu Estates, coming all the way to the city center. In fact, what I've just noticed today is that the major parts of this road just green all through. And again, also this particular roundabout, before you branch off to Kangundo Road, again green all through, no traffic at all. But it's also because it is not one of those major roundabouts, as it just comes from Thika Superhighway via Outer Ring Road, and also still using Outer Ring Road going all the way to Mombasa Road as you branch off to other routes. So that's just where this particular roundabout branches off, and again coming all the way from Kangundo Road. So clearly not one of those major roundabouts, and at least as of now, green all through, no traffic at all. Actually today I just noticed that we do not really have to look at any alternative route, which only means that all these works that are being done by Kura as well as Kenha in terms of rehabilitating this particular route, in terms of ensuring that bridges are put in place, is clearly serving its purpose, because as of now, in terms of traffic on major parts of Outer Ring Road, smooth sailing, no traffic at all.
Good morning. Thank you for still keeping us company right here on Good Morning Kenya. And that was a comprehensive update on what is happening on our major roads by our Traffic Marshal A1 Doreen Arange. We're going to continue telling you what is happening on our major roads just to get you to your various work destinations. But now we digress and we get to an interactive segment this morning, and we're talking about our children's safety. Kenya has resumed in learning amid the COVID-19 pandemic, and social distancing is actually a nightmare for both private and public schools. At the same time, children are breaking all the norms, and as far as, social distancing, health protocols have been laid out for COVID-19 spread prevention. So what do we do? Or rather, what do you do to ensure that your daughter, your son, or your ward remains safe as they continue with their studies? To take us through this conversation is none other than Dr. Jane Mate, a pediatrician at MP Shah Hospital. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
And glad to have you on board.
Thank you.
We are in a situation where it's either we swim, there is no chance of us sinking, especially from a parent's point of view.
Yes.
And the main question then is, our children have gone back to school. How do we ensure they're safe? And start off, how do we boost their immunity?
All right. As you have correctly mentioned, this is an unprecedented situation which we are all facing, both for the parents, for the children, for the teachers. So it's something that we have to take stepwise and be very aware and intentional of what we want to do in terms of protecting our children and safeguarding the teachers as well, and the non-teaching staff who are going to be interacting with the teachers in school. First thing you rightly mentioned is we want to make sure that we are at optimum health to be able to fight this infection, prevent transmission. So one of the things is to ensure our children are having a proper diet, a healthy diet, balanced diet. We want to boost the amount of vitamins that they're taking, vitamin C. So luckily we have something like mangoes in season. So you want children to have fresh fruit, fresh vegetable, whenever possible. So some of the ways that parents can help is ensure your child is having a balanced diet. Let your child have a fruit after breakfast, let them have a fruit after lunch, after dinner if possible. Even to the schools, I would urge that even when they're considering the meals that they're trying to give children, try and look at a balanced meal, a nutritious meal. You can actually get a nutritionist to have a look at the meal plan that the teachers have. Try and provide a fruit for the children wherever possible. If the government and the non-governmental organizations may be able to come in low-income areas to be able to still provide some of these nutritious meals, fruits and vegetables for the children, this will go a long way in boosting their immunity.
Now, Dr. there's this thought that whenever you talk about balanced diet, that it has to be expensive, far from the reach of a majority of Kenyans.
Okay.
But is it?
No, this is a misconception, because balanced diet, you can work with a affordable balanced diet, especially if you're making use of seasonal foods. Like I mentioned, we're in a season of mangoes. So there is no reason for me to try and buy my child high-end expensive fruits, whereas you're still going to get the same nutrients you require from seasonal fruits like mangoes, which are available from the rural areas to the cities at a reasonable price. So look at what is available in your environment at a reasonable price. Get a nutritionist to also give you alternatives of healthy diets where you can switch up protein. Instead of taking meat proteins, you can have very good plant proteins, which will provide the nutrition that your child needs at not so high cost. Because I've mentioned in our country we have a lot of low income areas, and you have to be considerate of these children and the schools in these areas. Where are they going to get their nutrition from? What are the cost implications for them? So there are various ways that you can tweak a balanced diet, use a lot of the seasonal fruits and vegetables available and the foods that are locally available. A lot of our local foods are actually a lot more nutritious than we conceive. So instead of maybe trying to buy for my child bread and some cereals for breakfast, you can opt to give your child sweet potatoes, arrowroots, which are equally as nutritious, if not even better, because they're quite high in fiber in comparison to maybe going to the supermarket and trying to buy some cornflakes or Weetabix for my child.
Now, another thing that parents are struggling with is that children, especially the lower grade, ages between 4 and 5, donning a mask is something that is not working. You can have a child have that mask for maximum of 10 minutes.
Yes.
And here we are, we've been told we have to do this so that we curb the spread of COVID-19.
Yes.
We're in a classroom environment.
Yeah.
From where you sit as a pediatrician, then how do we help the teachers who are going to be with these children just ensure that they're safe in as much as they cannot don their masks as we'd want them, or rather as they're required to? What options do we have?
So as you have rightly mentioned, wearing of masks, especially for children, is such a foreign concept. Remember, the beginning of 2020, really and truly, we hadn't gotten into this era where now everybody has to wear a mask. It's a very new concept for both the adults and the children. And for the younger children, they're not able to wear the mask as well as you would want them to, especially over a prolonged period of time. Remember, there are many factors that the mask is quite irritating for the face. They get quite warm, they get distracted, forget the purpose of the mask, and therefore you find that it's not being used as adequately as it's supposed to by these younger children. So for the teachers, what I would urge them is, one, as you're doing the school setup, try and see if you're able to maintain physical distance within the class. So where possible, reduce the number of students per class so that you're able to have that physical distance, or what we've been calling social distancing between the children. Ensure that your classrooms are well aerated. If it means opening up the door, opening up the windows so you have a bit of a breeze going through and circulation of air, you do not want to be in a stuffy area. The other thing that you can do is educate these children on hand hygiene. So show them how to wash their hands, let them do it frequently, do it under supervision. You can make it an interactive activity for the children and ask them, how am I supposed to wash my hands? Can somebody demonstrate? And this should be incorporated as part of their learning curriculum and daily activities, because you may say it today and then tomorrow the child is doing something completely different. So you can incorporate in the daily activities where you say, in the morning when we come in, we are going to review the things that we need to do in school. We need to sit when we're apart. When it comes to eating, you can remove your mask when you're eating, wash your hands before eating your food. After you've eaten, wash your hands and put back your mask, and do it as a demonstration. Have some of the kids show, what do you remember what you're supposed to do when you come into school, so that it's an interactive session for them. Yes.
Now let's talk about physical fitness. We have had the government said it has actually given a directive that we have an halt to extracurricular activities, but now physical fitness.
Yes.
That is very key
very
for all our growth, what we used to term as PE,
physical education.
Yes, now we're here. Physical fitness, yes. COVID, we're going to wear our masks while we're doing that. How do we go about it?
All right, so there has been some evidence that suggests with exertion, with physical exertion, while wearing a mask, you have compromised cardiopulmonary effort. As you can imagine, if you wear your mask and I ask you to sprint across the room, you'll be...
No, just even thinking, I mean, sprinting, that is not likely to happen, but I can imagine.
You can imagine how difficult it's going to be for you as well as your child. So we also need to be creative in the way that we are trying to incorporate physical exercise. It is very important for the children and even adults to maintain their physical activity. So some of the strategies that I have seen some schools incorporating, which I think is brilliant, is staggering the classes in terms of physical activity. So if you have a class of 10 pupils, then you have different times set up where they will be able to go outside and engage in physical activity. They do not necessarily have to have their masks, but try as much as possible to keep the social distancing. It is difficult in younger children, but if they're, for example, on a playground and you have different activities, you have 2 children who are taking part in skipping, maybe you have 1 child on the slide, you have maybe another child on the swing, you have another one on the sandbox, or 4 of them playing with a soccer ball. As much as possible, we need to try and be creative and see if we can rotate the activities that these children are doing as per class, so that you don't have the whole school being in the field taking part in physical activities. So this takes a whole restructuring of the program in most schools and institutions, because most of the time you'd find you have break time for the entire school and you have about 200 to 500 children in the field. So that needs restructuring to see how can we stagger the classes and the break times and the physical activity, because shutting down physical activity is not the solution.
It's not the solution.
Yes.
Now, talking about solutions, we've really focused on how the adults can take care of the children, the teachers, the parents. But now the emotional impact that COVID-19 and all its measures has had on these children.
Yes.
How do we deal with that? How do we make our children understand? You know, and especially there's a report that has been made public that psychologists now are concerned, especially you know, the effects of emotional effects of COVID-19, especially to the younger kind of children.
Yes.
So how do we get over that?
Thank you so much for bringing up that topic. Mental health in the context of COVID-19 is something that we really need to talk about. And like you said, children especially, they're social beings. They learn and develop from interaction with their peers, interaction with their parents, their teachers. So with social distancing and all the other public health measures that we are taking, this has been reduced, and it takes a lot for a child's mind to understand. I'm resuming school tomorrow after about 9 months of not seeing my friends, and here mom is saying, do not hug your friends, do not sit next to your best friend when you're having a meal. And for them, it's a lot to understand. So my advice to parents and teachers and healthcare providers and guardians to these children, keep an open line of communication. Like I said, you may tell a child one thing today, and by evening that has completely gone out the window, as most parents may have realized. The children who went back to school and you gave them all these instructions, wear your mask properly, stay away from your friends, and someone was making a joke and they said how they'd given the instructions to the child, and then when they went to pick them up, they found the child sharing a lollipop with their friend.
Or even having swapped the masks.
Exactly.
Like, what you gave me wasn't so pleasing.
Yes.
My friend had a better mask.
She had a nice pink one, which I liked, and I decided to wear it.
Can you imagine for the parents? Your heart just sinks.
Yes, you're worried. You're like, oh my God, what does this mean? Yeah. So keep an open line of communication. Try and not reprimand the child. Understand that for them this is going to take a long time for them to process what it means in terms of transmission and the risk that they have. So keep an open line of communication in that. Talk to them in that scenario and maybe tell her, you make the child understand why it's important not to share the masks. Inform them about transmission of germs in the simplest language that you can when you're communicating to a child. So tell them there are germs in the air, and you wearing your mask properly will help try and protect that. If you're sharing your mask with your friend, it could make your friend sick, or it could make you sick as well, and you want to try and protect your friends. So that's important for you not to share the masks. But remember, tomorrow morning, that will completely have been forgotten. So the reason I'm saying keep an open line of communication is if they have questions at the end of the day or when they're going to school, let them come to you with these questions. Mommy, why can't I sit next to my best friend when we're eating lunch? And take the time to explain to them. Give examples and also relate to what they're going through. And tell her, even I at work, I may not be able to sit next to my friends, but if I wear my mask and we sit across each other, we can talk to each other and find out how the day has been. So try and relate as much as possible to the child. Remember, they are not trying to be difficult. They are not refusing to hear what you're saying. They are trying to process. So walk the journey with the child. And over time, as we're saying, this is now the new norm. So you'll find in the next 3 months to 6 months, it will not be as difficult because you're giving the same message as the teachers are giving in school. So also parents and teachers work together to give the same message. So if we are saying we want to do hand washing and temperature checks when we're going to school, have the parents inform the kids of this. When you enter school, the teacher is going to be there. You're going to use some sanitizer or wash your hands. They are going to check your temperature. If they find that you're feeling unwell, they might call mommy and daddy to come and pick you up and have you go to a doctor and check if you're feeling all right so that you do not make your friends unwell. So in the simplest language, try and relate with the child. Yes.
Relate and review. Review everything that you've told them yesterday.
Every single day.
Yes. On that note, as we are reviewing and just taking in what Dr. Jane Marty has had to share in as far as, ensuring that our children are safe, especially within the learning institutions. We take a short break, but in return, we're going to be discussing now further how to handle emergencies if and when they occur, especially within our learning institutions. Do not go away. We'll be right back.
Get ready for a 3 weeks Africa Football Feast as the new year kicks off with the 6th edition of the Africa Nations Championship in Cameroon. From the 16th of January to the 7th of February 2021, 16 teams from the continent will be spread across 3 cities as the best players from domestic leagues showcase their talents live on KBC Channel 1. Let's support our own.
Simujifanya ni washindani. Ngoja siku ifike.
Mimi ni paka mwitu nitakupa pura.
Ni usiku sasa, matatizo kuna nini?
Mtume! Nilikwambia wacha kuzungumza na mwanamke. She has no respect. Coming to my party. Wacha kunipiga? Nipige.
Kuwa makini sana ule mke wako. Na usive tukugharimu.
Mamako mwenyewe. Wewe usiniudhi. Sawa, wewe ulimwona mamangu?
Huwezi kunisaidia? Nenda zako. To you too. Cheers.
This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
Remember, it was my idea to begin with, and there is no group. It is just me and you.
You have to skip to my room if you want me to cooperate, okay? There is no man in this world who likes to be around like a chicken.
You are your opinion too. Why don't you put your feelings in check? What is your problem? What do you want?
And what about the video Atido was showing you?
What video? Yes, what video? Hey, teacher, don't mind her. She forgot to take her medication in the morning. Well, that better be the truth. Bunch of idiots.
Did you just call us idiots?
I'm sorry, that came out wrong now. You see, this thing happened. Slippery car. Maybe they don't have money. Maybe we should just stick with the original plan.
Classmates, every Saturday on KBC.
This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
Mimi.
Hivi mwenye nataka kwa Yusuf sasa amenifukuza na kwa sababu yote mwe.
Yaani ninakuwa mbaya mimi mama.
Ungekuwa mzuri usingenipeleka kule Swaiba. One sasa. Ane.
Kwani nimebabu kipi? Hii ni machokora tu kwa nje ambao mnajitafutia lawama tu.
Okay, cut. Cut. These are my two young men.
No. Mbona haraka? Mbona haraka? Ghafla bingusa kaja yule kijana marasta yule Yusuf akitembea.
Yule ndugu yako anakupiga siku zipi?
Alinipiga wapi mama? Mimi nilimwachia akanisukuma vile jiona pale mkoa mimi nikatoka. Lakini tena kunipiga. Akaja pale. Oh, kizungu dad. Who is this? Naambia ni
Well, good to have you back. We have been talking about how to ensure our children remain safe now that we have resumed in learning. And my guest in studio is none other than Dr. Jane Marty from MP Shah Hospital, who is a pediatrician, just taking us through what we need to do as guardians and parents to ensure that our children are safe. We'll still continue this conversation. Now, if an emergency occurs, right now with COVID-19, that would be panic,
of course,
and chaos within a learning institution.
Yes.
But then, take us through how do we handle it? How do we properly handle that?
Okay, so when it comes to emergencies, what you want to do is plan ahead before the emergency even happens. Have a plan in place, whether it's at school, whether it's at home, whether it's at work. Have a plan in place. The same goes for COVID-19. So even as the schools are setting up, we are encouraging them, have a designated sick bay or an area that you can use as a temporary isolation area as you try and transfer this patient to a healthcare facility. So for example, if you get a child who comes in and they maybe have a fever after lunch and you've taken the temperature and it's quite high, you want to remove this child from the classroom. Take them to the sick bay. If you have a nurse or if you have a school doctor who attends to them, then they can do the first aid measures, give them something for the fever, help to calm the child down, put them in the isolation area, and then we encourage that the school has contacts with a healthcare facilities, preferably within 10 kilometers of the school facility. You do not want to be traveling for days to go to a healthcare facility. So go to the healthcare facilities, talk to them about managing emergencies in the school. How do you go about bringing in a patient? So for example, what we've done at MP Shah is we have the children's center. So we have isolation wards where we would be able to manage children who are suspected to have COVID-19. So what we encourage parents and guardians and schools to do is if you have a suspected case, you give us a call and inform us that we are coming from this and this place. we have this child at this age, they've presented with these symptoms, and we would like them to come in and have the test done or be treated for this and this condition. So once you tell us that, then we are ready, and once you get to the hospital, we'll be able to direct you into the isolation wards, and now there will be people there waiting to take care of the child. Remember, there are public health concerns in terms of transmission, so this is not a child who you're going to put in a public vehicle and tell them to go to the hospital.
Even before we get to the vehicle, I'm looking at how well equipped are sick bays within the school.
Yes.
That nurse, that teacher, how well equipped are they?
Yes.
You know, in this during this time of COVID, because I'm so sure we don't have a nurse or a teacher working out in a full PPE uniform.
PPE, yes. So one of the things to help manage that is, as the schools are preparing, is do you have a protocol that the staff and the non-teaching staff and the teaching staff, and whether it's the nurse or whoever is in the sick area or whoever is going to be manning the sick areas, are able to go through and tell them, if we have a suspected case, this is what we expect you to do. So for example, if I'm the one who's assigned to the sick bay, then the information that I want to find out is, are there PPEs available? Is there a mask available for me? Is there maybe a face shield and gloves available for me, which is a basic PPE that you will require for a suspected case. Remember, this is not a confirmed case, but you still want to protect yourself to a certain extent.
Yes.
So it is good to educate the person who is going to be in the sick bay. It is good to educate the teachers as well, because even for the teaching staff and the non-teaching staff, we expect that you're going to have your mask on at all times within the premises of the school. If a parent has to come and pick up their child and take them to a hospital, we expect that even as they're coming in, they're going to have the basic PPEs. They're going to have their mask on. If you have a face shield, then they're going to have a face shield on. So those are things that should be put in place, so that before you even get the emergency, you know, what steps am I now going to take to ensure my safety and the safety of the child.
There's a question, it may sound lame at this point, but is there first aid for a suspected case of COVID-19? What would I do? Like, I have no medical training.
Yes.
And I'm trying not to panic. Yes. I'm imagining in this case scenario, this is a teacher, or even it has happened in the bus.
Yes.
Yeah, and maybe an instructor who is driving home with the kids. What do I do? From a layman point of view, what would I do?
For a layman point of view, one, ensure your safety. That's the first thing. In that situation would be ensure your mask is properly put on. Properly means it's covering your nose, it's covering your mouth. You're not wearing it as a chin strap, or you're not putting it on your hand. You are safe. So depending on the symptoms that the person you're attending to or the child you're attending to is presenting with, there are certain things that you can do. If this is a child who's presenting with maybe a high fever and you mentioned you're in the bus, you can look at how the child is dressed. Try and expose them and remove as many clothes as possible. You can leave them in a vest or an inner shirt, or you can even remove that and just leave them exposed. If you have a cloth that you can sponge them and you feel this child is quite warm, you can sponge them as you try and make your way to a healthcare facility. If this is a child who's having difficulty in breathing, try and find out, is this a child who has any comorbidities? Like, is it an asthmatic child who is now having difficulty in breathing? For most asthmatic children, depending on their education, they will either have an inhaler on them, or they will have some medication that they have been using, which you can find out. Try and see if they're having difficulty in breathing, either because of an anxiety attack. So these are some of the exercises you can help the child, is take deep breaths. Talk to them and tell them, take a deep breath with me. And you go in through the nose, out through the mouth. So some of these procedures you can do with the child. You can ask them to hold with the chest down in a certain position to try and help with their breathing. So as much as possible, you want to try and calm this child, because the more you panic, you're in a situation with other children who are watching you. You're with a child who doesn't quite understand what is happening. So as much as possible, ensure your safety. Try and stay calm and do what you can in that situation as you go and get further help. Either go to a healthcare provider or go to someone who is a bit more senior who will be able to help you with the situation.
Oh, now let's talk about, we mentioned something about immunity, and there's been this talk that we show up our immunity, and other than fruits, parents, actually the adults, we've been doing the zinc, the vitamin C and such. Is that advisable, and is it working?
Yes, it is. So when it comes to vitamin C and zinc, this helps with preventing or reducing the risk of infection for children, not only for COVID-19 for common flus and common upper respiratory tract infections. I'm sure most parents, you've gone to hospitals and you tell the doctor your child has flu-like symptoms, and most of the time they'll be like, okay, so you'll go home, give them some hot water, lemon and honey. So these are more of the conservative kind of measures that we'll take for most of the upper respiratory tract infections. Vitamins are very vital in helping your body fight against infections. Zinc is also very good for immunity and healing process of your body. So if you're able to provide this for your children in terms of supplements, then you can actually get supplements from your medical provider. If you're not able to get additional supplements for your child, like I said, a balanced diet will go a long way. Make sure your child is well hydrated, especially now that you're having more of the warmer months. Ensure that your child is taking adequate fluids. Ensure that they are getting the fruits and vegetables that they can, green vegetables for iron, which is also going to help boosting in your immunity. Make sure they're getting adequate carbohydrates in their diet, adequate proteins in their diet. So it doesn't necessarily mean that now we are all running to get multivitamins and zinc and vitamin C for our children.
Can we get to a point where one can abuse the vitamins? Because I think with the anxiety among parents and guardians, we're giving our children vitamin C in the morning. At 10 o'clock, they're having some. Lunch hour, there's another. At 4, and is it a point where can we actually abuse these supplements?
Most definitely, especially for vitamin C. So if you take there are different formulations of the vitamin C tablets. So there are adult formulations and there are children formulations. And in addition, if you imagine you're giving your child maybe a fruit 3 to 5 times a day, and then on top of that you're giving them the vitamin C supplements, you actually get to a point where you can get an overload of the vitamin C. Most of these vitamins are quite easily removed by the body, but you can get to a level where you're overloading your child with vitamin C. So be reasonable about it. If you're in a situation where your child does not have access to the fresh fruit and vegetables, then you can consider them giving them a vitamin. Age-appropriate dose. So this is why I said talk to your medical provider, let them check the child's age and weight, and give you the appropriate dose, as opposed to I've been taking this vitamin C tablet, so I'm just going to give one to my child, because they're different dosages, and you could give a very high dose to a child.
Like what would be the average dose for a 4? Because that's the problem where we have the age between 4 and 7 and 8 and 10.
So for the younger children, usually we'll give about 250 milligrams of vitamin C per day with the tablets, whereas for the older children you can give up to 500 milligrams, and now for the adults up to 1,000 milligrams. So you can see there's a huge variation in terms of the dosing. So you want to be very careful. If you're going to give supplements to your children, please talk to your medical care provider so that you get the right dosing.
Now, in a nutshell, as we come to a close, from a pediatrician, we are your clients as parents, and I'm sure we have been streaming into your office like any other daily with so many questions as to how we can ensure that our children are safe. One word as we come to a close, Dr. Ari. To us, especially guardians and parents who have anxiety attacks every now and then when our children are out there.
So what I'll tell parents is this is a fluid situation. It's not something that is written in stone. You're going to hear very many different things about what you should do, what you should not do. So my advice to parents is look out for your child and for the benefit and the health of your child. Do what is best for your child in the context of your home and your schools. So if you feel that my child is unwell, for whatever reason, they're feeling a bit unwell today, they have a bit of a fever, you don't have to take that child to school, and you are free to make a decision for your child in discussion with the teachers, in discussion with your healthcare provider, and decide that today my child is not feeling this and this way, or I am not comfortable with my child being in school because of a certain reason. Is it okay for them to stay at home until they're feeling a bit better? So talk to your child as well. Let them understand what they're going through in context of being back to school in the pandemic. Are they getting along well? Are they getting the proper learning? Are they getting the social interaction that they require? So keep that line of communication open with your child. Don't assume now they've gone back to school, they're fine. Listen to your child. if they have certain concerns, if the teachers have certain concerns, address them at the moment. So what is true today may not be true tomorrow. As we said, the government is giving these advisories based on what they're hearing from the medical experts and how the virus is spreading and the numbers that we're having in the countries. So government might come up and say, let us continue with opening schools. The numbers are on the low, so let's keep children in school. Whereas there might come a time when you have a surge in the numbers and they say, okay, let's take a step back and see if we can close the school for a little while and find out why the numbers are spreading. So it's a fluid situation.
Fluid situation.
Yes.
Thank you very much for making time. Indeed, as a parent, that was a load of anxiety, day 1 and day 2 of the resumption of learning. Yeah. But information that we've gotten this morning from Dr. Jane Mate, who's a pediatrician at MPSHA, is that this is a fluid situation. As a parent and a guardian, keep those lines of communication open, especially among those younger children. Listen to them and also understand that they may not really just be stubborn or not want to wear that mask as they should, and keep social distancing. Is that they are not an adult. They're not adults to understand the seriousness of this particular disease, or what we call in COVID-19. And so as a parent, as a guardian, you need to be a little bit patient. Talk, and please do not panic or have anxiety. That has been a conversation we've been talking about this morning, matters of ensuring that our children are safe. Thank you for your feedback, everyone that has been watching. Now we move to the roads and see what is happening as per our traffic marshal. What's happening?
Wow, so we are still looking at Outer Ring Road. Let's try to see if things have changed. Try to also see if we can get some alternative routes, if at all there's heavy traffic, even as we do our last link for this on this Wednesday rather. So this is how it is looking like. Wow. Thick, heavy traffic as you leave. This is actually just before you get to Feather Estate. Coming through coming via Outer Ring Road rather, heavy traffic, maroon all through. Now again, this is what it means when you see the maroon color. At least the better part of today, when you're looking at this specific road, in terms of traffic, we've not seen much of the maroon color there, which is an indicator that there's heavy traffic, not moving at all, just at a standstill. That is what that maroon color indicates or means there. And this is how it is looking like on this particular stretch, just before you leave, actually after you leave Feather, coming all the way to the city center. And even past there, still coming all the way to the CBD via Outer Ring Road on that inner lane there on that stretch. Heavy traffic next to Pipeline as well, also heavy traffic there, and this is again specific to both lanes. So inner lane there as you head over, actually as you leave Feather, coming all the way to the CBD via Outer Ring Road, and also as you leave the areas around Jogo Road, coming all the way through Outer Ring Road. So that's just where there's really heavy traffic as you head over to those areas. So let's try and look for some alternative routes for our viewers. As of now, those that are leaving those areas, coming to the city center. In fact, not even alternative routes per se, because you can branch off to Jogo Road, coming all the way to this, if at all you intend to come to the CBD, that is, coming all the way with that specific route, because today that Jogo Road doesn't really look, in fact, it's not even bad, because oftentimes this specific route, that kind of traffic usually unbearable, but it's also because Jogo Road is one of those roads with with numerous estates. So clearly, as of now, can really serve as one of those good routes, because on both lanes of this particular road, it's just green all through, which again means that there's no traffic, and this goes all the way to the City Stadia roundabout. Also one of those busy roundabouts, because it branches off to Landis Road, coming all the way to the CBD, and also Lusaka Road as you leave Mombasa Road and watch Jogo Road, which is again what you're trying to look at, trying to see if at all it can serve as a good route. But it looks like things are beginning to slightly change a bit in terms of the traffic flow, where there's a bit of a heavy traffic before you get to the City Stadia. But the major parts of the road, at least not that bad. As of now, for today, we're just focusing on Outer Ring Road, trying to check how the progress of the footbridges installed on that specific route have been doing and how they've been trying to reduce on the traffic flow on that route. So that's why we put a cap on matters traffic this Wednesday. Guys, yes. I've decided I will not use that word again.
Yeah.
Oh, umeanza pia wewe.
Hiyo ni version yako Sam.
Kwani sini life.
Cheza, fanya tu kama na mtu asikwambie.
Happy birthday.
Oh, wow.
You know what? Actually, you know one thing? I usually like how Regina is so calm. Like, you would say things and she'd be like, okay. Just nodding her head. Her calmness?
It comes with being the dinosaur in the team.
Alafu naona hii side yetu na Jane kwenye inakaa. We are wearing matching ninis.
Imeka machi.
Jane nawe tuko hapo. Tafadhali director rudisha shot ya sea water. Thank you.
High five, Sam. Literally, this is a high five.
Okay.
Okay. 1, 2, go.
There
we go.
An awesome show we've had.
Yes, indeed.
I love the conversation with the lady who hosted, Jane, about corruption, the place of men, the place of women in governance. It's not a competition, it's a complementary one.
Yes.
And, you know, you ingine tutaongea off air.
It's not a competition.
Yeah.
It's not a competition. It's not a one-man show.
And I think that's the part where we tend to miss it most of the time, because you always feel like you're competing with the other gender. But it's complementary. You're complementing each other.
But can we help it, though? In this 2021, can we help it but compete? We have scarce resources, scarce almost everything. Can we help but compete? Survival for the fittest.
But what are we competing for? What's the competition? You know, the things, of course, competition is necessary, but issues to do with fight against corruption or good governance.
Who fought it better than who, I guess? Who did it better than who? But all that was watered down when Kamala Harris and Joe Biden ran for presidency in the US and they ended up clinching the seat. I think a lot can be drawn from that particular event and union, in the sense that, yes, two can come together and thrive. I'm talking about life. Still sounded like a marriage. What is wrong with me, Sam? Two can come together and thrive.
See, it just depends with how someone chooses to take that info, because with the context...
what you choose to do with that information?
Yeah.
Totally up to you.
Doreen, someone has actually put this query to you.
To me?
Yes. Ati Regina is cow.
No, here, as in compared to the three of us, when we have conversation,
tell them. Tell them, Dee. Tell them.
She is. No, she is.
On air.
But you see also, listen. There's this thing. Listen. There's this thing about personality where one can have two personalities. So one can be a bit calm, the other one can be everywhere. Which that person who's asking the question, maybe anamaanisha hiyo ingine.
Yeah?
Na kabla useme nani anakuanga everywhere.
we know who.
Kabla useme nani anakuanga everywhere.
Unataka kusema nini kwani?
But you know, every individual is a mix of different types of personalities.
And that's what I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So, I agree with the viewer though, ati Regina calm.
No,
Regina yu nyamaza juu anajua akiongea.
But that is calm, isn't it?
She's like verbally, okay. See verbally.
Don't say, don't.
Watch your mouth.
Ignore the word verbal. But have you ever heard the story about Helen of Troy? The one who launched 1,000 ships and started the most famous war in history. In a good way though.
But also,
nakumbuka ile saying inasemanga, heaven knows no anger, nor hell a fury, like a woman scorned.
Najua zile auditions za Ameru wife.
But you see,
you were saying?
You see also, the reason why I keep saying Ray is calm is because also there are two viewers who said the same thing, that amongst you, at least kuna mtu anakanikana watulizanga.
Kuna mtu anakaanga tujui ni nani.
Mnaongea mnyamazi.
Sio ndo kazi yetu.
But you see, she could be having both sides. Just the way we are saying Wamboi, people have different personalities. There's someone can have that outgoing personality, and then there's like a deep calm. Someone can have both the deep calm personalities. Another one can have both the outgoing personalities. So but depends on how someone also wants to look at this person.
Let's just end this conversation. She is not calm.
For those of you who are wondering,
it's just that, you know, Regina represents the news element of Good Morning Kenya, which has to be cool, calm, and collected. All right? Ni JD. Si personality. Ni JD.
But nonetheless, you know, Sam, whatever you see on air is part of what that person really is.
Exactly.
No. True.
Miss Kwagivi.
And you need to understand your proper personalities. Get to do a personality test. Get to see the test, the characteristics that define the different personalities. We have sanguines, phlegmatics, cholerics, and melancholics. Yes.
At that
so understand how much of what of
a particular personality
you are. And understand which one is dominant, because trust me, Sam, whatever you exude here does not just
come out of nowhere. It's part of you.
It also thrives in different spaces as and when the occasion demands.
Okay.
I'm a very calm creature.
The take home is she's not calm.
I'm a very calm creature.
It's the job description.
Cool, calm, and collected.
My name is Samuel Njoroge. Thank you for watching. We've appreciated your company. Asanteni sana kwa kuja. Thank you so much for coming.
I am Jane Wamboi. Thank you so much for your time today. Be sure to join us again tomorrow, right here on Good Morning Kenya.
I'm Regina Manyara, the cool, calm, and collected one in this team. So see you tomorrow.
And I'm Doreen Arange. Till tomorrow. Good morning.
Toodaloo.
Yet another exciting day to shoot CoverGirl looks, and this time we're here in Westlands shooting with Thompson Photography at Studio Zolani. Our model for today is Njambi. Let's hear what she has to say.
Hello, my name is Njambi Nzuki. I'm a student at USIU. I study IBA, and I'm here today to be the cover girl of the Bollywood-inspired theme.
It's Bollywood-inspired Njambi, and when I was working on this, I thought, who would be the perfect girl for this? What did you think of the brief that I sent you?
I thought it was really cool because it's a mix of unique and cultural at the same time.
When it comes to your day-to-day makeup looks, what do you normally wear?
I usually just wear mascara, eyebrow pencil, and lipstick. Just casual.
Now, the best thing about this editions of CoverGirl, for me, I really wanted to give women that CoverGirl look, because we're always looking at magazines and thinking, wow, I'd love to look like this women on the covers of the magazines. So doing this for me is such a pleasure, and I